recite the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right. First order of business on the agenda will be the approval of minutes. Everybody read the minutes? Are there any additions, corrections? If not, I'll entertain a motion to approve the minutes as written.
I'll make a motion.
Motion by Commissioner Holm to approve the minutes as written. Is there a second? Second by Commissioner Miller. Is there any more discussion on the minutes? Not hearing any. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Minutes approved. Next will be the approval of the agenda. Are there any changes to the agenda, amendments?
I'd like to add a survey and submit it,
Okay.
and etc. included.
I would like to add some road matters to it, and also a discussion on Measure 4 if we have, if we can.
Road matters pertaining to,
Well, the workers, one of them contacted me about the grade and step. He said there's nobody to represent us now to take care of that matter.
so you're talking about wage discussions for the road department?
Well, yes. And also on 7th and 8th Street. Down there, it's a pretty rough intersection that needs to be addressed.
Okay.
Yeah, there's a problem down there.
And then we need some gravel on a couple of roads down by Don Larson and down by Todd Deuce.
Okay, well, we'll just add all that in the road matters then.
Yeah.
And just sometimes road matters gets used and then there's a vagueness to it, so a little bit of information is
That
helpful.
was pretty
So-
big.
So, under old and unfinished business, we'll add, a survey and info about the survey, and then road matters, which pertains to some possible wage discussions, and then, some specific road details, so. The only other thing I would like to add, which kind of piggybacks on road matters, but it'd be a different thing, would be ditch mowing. Is there any other items for the agenda?
That, out here by Kevin Davis, that's also.
Yeah, that's done. So, that's. All right, with that, I'll entertain a motion to approve the agenda as amended. Commissioner Materi makes a motion to approve the agenda as amended. Is there a second to the amended agenda?
I'll second.
Second by Commissioner Miller. Any more discussion on the amended agenda? Not hearing any. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The agenda is amended. I'll just bring up the ditch mowing thing right away on road and unfinished business because it's quick, but, I got a few calls from some guys, and ditches in my area, several of them where they had kind of regrown and guys wanted to go touch them up here before October 1st, but as dry as it's been, they're kind of scared to do it. And asked me if we were gonna be tough on them, and I said I would rather have some tall grass for an extra week or two than have a fire on our hands. So I told them to just use caution, pick a frozen morning or a dewy morning or maybe a little bit of rain, you go out and they agreed totally. They just felt like, you know, since we hit the deadline, cause they were gonna mow this weekend, it was windy, ugly, so.
Yep.
I'm not suggesting any kind of date change or nothing. I would just, if people call you, just tell them to use their best judgment, do it as fast as they can. I don't know what else to say.
So we won't find them.
Well, I would say it would have to be a scenario where like, it hasn't been touched all year and it's August 20th or something. Yeah, I'd say,
October 20th.
in my, yeah, or October. In my opinion, the next week or two here, we should probably just be pretty lenient and let people use some good, just, you know, I don't wanna be the reason guys are going out and start ditch fires. That one west of Hazelton was easy and fast and big, and I was north of, Kintyre yesterday when another one started.
Did it?
It takes 4 departments to put them out, these guys are tired, we need to, try and help out our firefighters best we can. If holding back on ditch mowing for a week or two helps that, so anyway, if people are contacting you, I told people to just wait and use their best judgment, maybe we'll get a short little rain or something. I even have a couple ditches that they've been mowed and hayed, but the alfalfa kinda came back, they could use a touch-up. I wasn't going out there, especially this weekend and doing it.
I looked at mine last night, at just half a mile.
Yeah.
I said, I'm not touching this.
Right, so anyway, my reason for bringing that is I'm sure there's plenty other people out there that are probably debating, and I don't wanna push a fine to the point where we're having fires for something that.
And lose a farm.
Right, so anyway, I guess we'll just kinda use some judgment and hopefully we can get through this and get some moisture or something before we do it, so. Anyway, that was my reason for bringing up the ditch mowing, and also to thank all the firefighters out there busting their butts, cause, it's not an easy thing to fight a fire, especially the last couple days, them guys worked their butts off, so. Anyway, that was my topic for the ditch mowing, so. Next, we'll discuss the, survey and, info. Commissioner Materi.
Oh, okay.
You added that?
Here's what I got, and I'll hand it. I'll give you one. I've got one. You want it, Josh? Oh, you've got it here. You can pass these out.
So is this pertaining to your
This is
fence line
pertaining to
encroachment
that fence
discussion?
going south and west of me, around that lake bed. And this survey was done, and it was at the request of Mr. Magrum at the last meeting, asking that either Donnie Everly or I get a survey and submit it. Mike Ravinius on 9/20/24 sent his 3 men that were out there on Singer Lake doing a PERS deal on that clay deal. He sent the 3 guys over, they shot that survey in the lines on 9/20/24, and that's what this survey is. I submitted it as I did. And a little history on this road, I just got off the phone just a half hour, 10 minutes ago, with Brian Bittner from Burley County. He'd be willing to speak in regards to what they do in Burley County. He'd do it virtually on fences or natural lakes or creeks. He said, that's just the way we do it. We create a permit on an encroachment to go around a lake or a creek. So my history on this is in 1953, I had a 60-foot easement. I got a letter that was sent to me October of 21, stating that I should remove my fences on that mile because I'm encroaching on a 75-foot right-of-way. I was sure, but not quite sure, that I had a 60-foot easement that was conveyed by my grandparents on that mile of fence line. Due to that, I went in and pulled the books. It is a 60-foot easement. I did not do anything. I didn't remove the fence, and I had documentation back in 2006 with the county minutes stating and supporting that I can leave my fence up there if it's dry, or wet and dry, move it down in. We've had wet weather. Granted, right now it's drying up, it's receding. As we just talked about dry, it's dry, but it's not gonna stay dry. It's gonna go back up. And this 60-foot slope on that right-of-way is washed in from the prevailing winds and the water height. It's washed in down to 25 feet where that slope is washed out. There's a straight embankment anywhere from 16 to 20 some feet straight down. My fence is out of the clear zone, as that map indicates, that survey.
But it's not out of the right of way.
This is correct. Let me finish speaking here. Thank you. In the 2006, it stated, and their intent, from the way the DOT indicated to me, their intent was, being you've had that fence there since 1996, that their intent was to leave that fence, and World Engineering stated that, and it's never been talked about since. They said in the state level, they also do it. He said, like Mr. Pfeiffer said, the new DOT manager, Derek Pfeiffer, stated yesterday when I was in there at the office from 9:30 to 10:30 with him. They said it's no secret on our state infrastructure, of highway infrastructure, we do permit on natural occurrences like lakes and creeks to go around into the permitted area of right-of-way. We let them go in with a permit that we draw up between the two parties, the board and the party it's pertaining to. They all sign it, they file the permit, and done deal. He said to me, quote, he said, we can't get involved in this, it's a county issue with your board. All 53 counties, he said, within the state have their own guidelines.
Well, that's what I said last time, he said they can't, we can take you to the trial, but we can't make you drink, you know what I mean? They can
Right.
tell us what to do to, I mean, they,
And here's what else he said, Don, and I'm not questioning anything on what you brought up. We do sign on the back of that contract for federal aid. It's signed to confirm that all these encroachments are permitted and in compliance and filed. What I had done, I felt supported what was being done, and I never moved it. And then after he shot that, I went back down, and not just directed you, I'm directing it to all. My fence is setting back, and as of today, it's 3 to 4 feet from that straight embankment. If I move it back anymore, it's going down in. It's gonna fall in down. And then we did talk about, easy, you'll bring it up. I brought it up, because they brought it up on screen. The 5 railroad ties, I told them what I'd done, what I was told to do by the DOT back in 2006, from Alex John, or directing it back to me from them being directed to Alex. I drilled 5 1-inch holes as they wanted me to do, and I did it. What they wanted, I did it. They indicated to me, how did he say it? That those railroad ties, I probably pulled them out just because they're a tie. And he said what they do, the state does, they got a source, but I didn't ask him who it was, but I'm thinking it's probably Specialties Inc. that furnishes the posts, and they're pre-drilled. That way he said, we don't drill them. They pre-drill them, we buy them from them, and then we place them. They can be either a 3-inch hole, or they can be clover leaves, however they drill them. I said, I'm willing to replace those railroad ties. I'll pull them out and put in a pre-drill, what do you want to call it, a pine post like they use on their guardrail. He said, I would ask the board to give you a permit with documentation agreeing what you'll do. And he said, we sent a copy when you were in there, Don. They have an example on a sign deal where it's encroaching on the right of way. He said, and you can go pull the books in your courthouse and in Burley County, whatever, on these state highways where there's an encroachment, there's a permit of record. And he said, that's what I would do. And I asked the county, he said, to issue you a permit on what was back in 2006, but get it on paper and file it with the survey.
well, then the county still resumes liability for it. Why don't you resume liability for it?
Because here's the
Hold on, I'm gonna interrupt you guys.
Go ahead.
We have a public hearing here at 9:15, so we're gonna have to table this till a different part of the meeting now, if it's gonna take longer than this, so.
But
Cause we do have a public hearing on the schedule, so we're
That's
gonna have
fine,
to,
that's
we'll just, no offense to anybody.
No,
we'll
no,
just get
no
moving
problem. Let's
forward.
move on.
The public hearing's gotta at least stay, and then we'll move it to the afternoon sometime.
That
here.
sounds good.
Whatever time starts clearing up, we'll move to that, so. With that, we are going to, begin the public hearing since it's 9:15. So the public hearing has begun to consider the petition for discontinuance of a road at a point of the northwest corner of the northwest quarter of section 3, thence due east 1,584 feet, thence due south 5,280 feet, 60 feet wide along Old Road, approximately in the middle of section 3, township 133, range 77, an easement on the northeast quarter of section 10, beginning at a point from the southeast corner of the northeast quarter of section 10, thence due northwesterly 60 feet along the Old Road, 2,640 feet of section 10, township 133, range 77, Emmons County. No, I'm not gonna repeat that. Pretty long-winded description, okay. So the public hearing is open if anybody wants to speak, for or against it. Basically, if I'm gonna give the cliff notes, Josh, you can correct me if I'm wrong. This is, some kind of an easement that was created and platted for property years ago. It has a 911 address, I believe Lila Lane or Lila Road.
No, actually, there is a sign there that says Lila, but it is addressed, like, this yard is addressed as a 72nd.
Okay, cause,
So, when it was 911 address, they just assumed this was a driveway and not, cause even me, I didn't think it was a public road. So it is a
it had
72nd,
public easement to it.
yeah, so this is addressed as,
So this is basically, for any of you guys that aren't familiar with it, this is the road that leads to the Neil and Lila Beetlespot property. So
and actually the first half of the paragraph is the road that comes from 72nd down to here, and then that second half is actually from the corner of Will and Fourth, and then goes through the field there, and crosses the creek.
So is there a trail that goes through there, a cow trail?
Well,
There
there was a
was-
bridge there, it's washed out.
Yeah, if you look, this is from the late 50s or early 60s, there was a decent road that they used to get from there, so they created the easement on that, the public easement.
Okay.
So, yeah, it includes that whole stretch, so.
Now they wanna take that out?
Yeah, cause they platted new lots, and when they did that, they created access easements for those people that buy these lots. So by getting rid of the public, they still have access to the land, just their access, you know, so.
Do you want an explanation?
Go ahead.
Okay, years ago, it used to go all the way through and it was considered, what I was told, a county road. And it was because all the farmers in the area could go straight through the farmyard
Yep.
and out to Will Lane. And we used to use the south in the early 80s, we used to use the south road to get into the farm, not the north road. Although that north part was there too. But the county took care of the whole road, and after about 3 springs of there was 2 culverts that were in there, because there's 2 areas of the creek that had to be crossed to get from Will Lane, and they kept washing out in the spring. So I was told by Neil years ago that he decided with the county board that it was costing too much to keep replacing that and fixing it. So they decided they would just use the north road, which, like you said, is considered Lila Lane, there's a sign there.
Yeah.
But yeah, the address is just 72nd Street. And that was in good enough shape, they could use that, they didn't have to deal with the South Road anymore. So that's when their address then changed to 72nd Street. So now it's more of all of the property in the area except for the one quarter there that he just clicked on. I believe that's Pat Huber.
Holzer, Terry and Kate.
Okay,
Terry.
it's under Terry now.
Yep.
So that's the only other person in the area that would need to use that road for any reason, and he always asks, and because there is a gate there into his pasture. The rest of it belongs to the Beetlesbacher family, and now it is being split because Neil and Lila are both gone. It's being split between the 5 kids. So and the only ones who live out there now, John and Jess Beetlesbacher live there and use that road. And then Leon will own the homestead there, which is that quarter right there that you're at, where the
Yep.
house is. He will own that when the estate is done. So this will be our access to our home, once that goes through. So it's like, why have it as a public road? It's not maintained by the county. It hasn't been maintained by the county for many years. Lila and Neil haven't lived there for, what, 12 years
12,
maybe?
15 years, yeah.
Yeah, so it's just been, it was almost like a cow path for a while till Leon started going out to start working on the place, keeping it up to date. So the only ones using it are the farmers that are renting the land and working the fields, putting their cattle in, you know, whoever rents.
So what happens if they don't get access?
What's that?
Do they have other access if they can't, if you guys don't agree, grant them access? Let's
Maybe
say,
through the pasture and crossing some other creeks that,
I mean, down the road, let's say something happens and they don't get along, and how are they gonna get access to that land?
the only person would be, Laura Herbola is going to have the land to the west of that. And, I guess feeling that there's not gonna be a problem, if somebody builds there on their property, the road would be shared with whoever. going forward, if you go with what the will said, for the next 10 years, if they wanna sell, they have to sell to immediate family first. So what'll happen with anybody else, I don't know, because I don't know what other accesses there are into that property.
So you have in
To the
your
west.
contract for the next 10 years, if they wanna sell, it has to be to go towards the family first before it goes outside.
Right.
First
That's-
chance to buy.
For the first opportunity to buy would have to be a family
Yeah,
member.
but what I'm getting at is like, if Terry needs access to get to that pasture, how are they gonna get there? How are they gonna get there if there's no other access?
That is the only access that I know of. To that
I rented that
pasture
stuff.
over there, I don't know what.
Terry even signed that, didn't he?
Terry even signed this, didn't he?
Terry signed it.
Yeah,
signed it?
Kate signed it as, what, for her mother.
So how is Terry how does he get into his land then?
He's got down on the homestead, they
He's
came
down on the
from the
homestead in
south,
Chase.
where they're,
Right there.
where the
Yeah.
From Jake
homestead
Huber.
is,
So you
yeah.
get in from the
Yes,
other?
yeah, that's what.
This
You can
just
chase
happens.
it from pasture to pasture to pasture
Right.
on that Huber, that's the old Jake Huber land.
I didn't know if that's the only access in there.
No, they can come up from the south, they can come up through their pastures.
Exactly, they just happen to have gated that corner for whatever reason.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
It's just another means to get in there,
Yeah,
but they've got access from the south.
Right.
And they'll unload their cattle on the south end
Right,
and move their cattle up through the cells.
right.
right,
I rented that for years, so yeah, that's just the way it is. There's one spot where there's a steep, where it's
Up at
washed
that
out,
corner.
but you can get through it.
they just happened to, this year, they happened to put a well
In there,
in
okay,
that corner, or not a well, no, they've got it on rural water.
okay.
Because they did ask us if they could go in there to use that corner instead of coming up from the south.
Yep, yep.
So they did do that.
It used to be solar, I mean, at that time, it was just a submersible pump, but it was so unpredictable, or windmills.
Right,
Oh, now there's solar panels on a lot of these wells that are bored, so it's totally different now to run
Yeah.
cattle.
well, they went on rural water, I guess.
Oh, did they? Okay.
Yeah, they connected in with where we're connected.
Yeah,
And they went, cause it was closer, and I suppose cheaper that way to do it.
and they put game cameras up on these tanks to monitor these tanks for water. I mean, I've had it where I've had cattle that they were dehydrated with a well, the power went out. They
Right,
had an underground burn on the lines and no water. Well, you get up there once a week and you're in trouble with cattle.
yeah. So I don't know if there's something else that we should do. I mean, this was just the thought, this road, like I said, wasn't maintained, and so I don't know going forward, I guess I don't have the answers either. I just figured this was the route we needed to take for now and see. You guys know more about roads than I do.
But the future's unpredictable, we don't
Yeah,
know that either.
it's
Something
pretty
to do,
bad, you talk about that clay and whatnot.
Yeah,
And this spring was bad, it was really soupy in several areas, and now it's got some ruts. Because like John and Jess, they're coming and going every day, going to work. And, it puts a burden on that road, so it is kinda rough.
So I got, utilities, so if the road isn't gonna be maintained, how are they gonna get in there?
That's, I guess,
who's that?
Utilities, Chem Electric or Beck or somebody?
Well, there's no power lines back in there, is there?
Yeah, there is.
we've
There's
got,
one that goes to the well,
It goes, it crosses that line, it goes over to John's from the south, and then it feeds that farm.
it,
Are Weber's are they to the west of that?
they're more
Holzer piece?
southwestern.
Southwest.
Yeah, the line comes in from the south, and it comes in, and it goes, to the east or towards John's. And then it crosses to serve power to, the home place there.
Okay,
And that's my only
that-
question is how they have access into
Well,
there.
that would be like, rural water too. Do they have access getting in there? If they got.
Yeah, I don't know if rural water's in there or not.
Well, they
She's
did it.
up
Oh, they are,
just put
okay,
it
yeah,
down.
that'd be my only question, is utilities, yeah.
Well, if they want service, they'll have to let them in to fix it.
I just included in on the agreement you have with your neighbors, that you'll grant them ingress egress.
That's, I guess I didn't even know about the power lines, had no idea.
Yeah,
Right now, it's on, Game and Fish for public hunting in that area too. And, but Game and Fish put signs saying no motor vehicles, because we don't want extra, people coming in with their four-wheelers and what, to go hunting. And it's like, hey, there's cattle out here, there's, you gotta use some common sense and
walking.
you walk in. It's walking access for hunters to keep the excess people off of it whenever possible. But other than that, I don't know going forward, I don't know if that'll continue though. And it's gonna depend on each one of the kids that inherit the land, what they wanna do. So that might make changes too. But the road, I don't know, what's the best answer? Is it keep it public access, even though it doesn't go all the way through, and you guys maintain it? Or do we turn around and say, okay, it's just a private drive, close this out, and I guess we're responsible for maintaining it? That's, I suppose, totally up to you guys.
What do you do? I mean, I'm listening to you guys.
Well, I'm gonna say it's not even on a section line.
Well, yeah, I suppose Neil, they just gave, they gave access for that years ago, right, Neil, and, I mean, that's why they did that, right?
Is there something of record?
Yeah, they,
1983,
In 83, was it?
October
Okay, there's a
31st
deal.
of 1983.
I thought it was, yeah, I
There's
thought
a
it
county
was.
road easement.
So Neil gave that permission, right?
Yeah, county,
And it was filed. Well, then it's legit, then. It's legit. It's
county gave them $1 essentially for,
Yeah, that's.
So I mean, it was their land, Neil gave that land to them to put a road on.
yeah.
So now,
But that road continued all the way down Will
Through.
Lane, where now that part doesn't get maintained, I mean, that kinda defeated the purpose of that road, now it just
Right.
dead ends in their
You
farmyard,
can't
so.
get a road through there, yeah.
And it looks to me that anybody that legitimately needs to use that road sign this petition, so you got Alfred and Ryan Bush, Tom Johnner, Nadine Held and Brian Schatz, which I'm assuming are either renters or have land really close by, and then, even Pat Huber with, Kate Holzer signing as her petitioner. So Terry and Kate, which I'm assuming they either are comfortable with the access they have, or they feel like they're gonna be able to use this road for access, so. As far as that goes, I mean, when the very people you're trying to grant access to are signing the petition, they obviously are not concerned about it, so. And like you said, this isn't a specific section line, this was, for some reason they couldn't build on the section line or didn't want to, probably because this was probably the path of least resistance and it was convenient at the time and cheapest and easiest, so. Does anybody else wanna speak in this public hearing for the discontinuance of the road? Anybody
Are
else?
they right, are they not?
Well, without a state's attorney here at the moment, it's hard to say if it's right or wrong, but it looks to be in order.
We should give it to Joe and have him look at it, and then
That's what I would do.
I would say, right?
Yeah, I don't know if there's any specific rule that says you have to act today, but at least the public hearing has taken place. For the record, no one has spoken against it, only one person has testified in favor, and there are signatures from the adjoining landowners, so.
so I think this is a little bit different than like a regular section line,
Right.
because it's a section line.
Yeah,
This was land he
This just
granted,
goes to that farmyard, yeah.
and this was land that Neil granted a long time ago, so.
And I think when it comes to Ken and Beck and all those, generally when you sign up as a customer and get service, I
He should
think
do
part
that
of,
right
part of your contract is granting them right away, so
You've got
if
right
any of
away.
them are Ken or Beck
Rather,
customers.
rather it's closer,
Right.
because you gotta go down.
Well, I don't disagree with your point, but
Yeah.
just reminding myself, like with the contracts I had to update when I bought my place, they pretty much tell you if you want service, you gotta let us drive on your
Well,
land,
yeah,
and so
exactly.
which kinda goes without saying, but.
Right,
So I would assume most of the, that
yeah, I
most
don't
of
see
them
that
access
being an
anyway,
issue, to
but-
be honest.
I mean, you're right, it's just like anything else, you gotta, if you're gonna be changing the access to the property, you gotta ask those questions, that was a great question, but probably won't be an issue,
No.
but,
It's common sense.
Yeah,
well, I would say, just in fairness to the rules and make sure everything's conducted properly, we should probably, consult the state's attorney just to make sure this was all
there's no culvert.
squared away and stuff unless somebody else has a different point to make.
Did he write that up or not?
I don't see a signature anywhere from Joe, and I never really got any kind of direction from him otherwise that,
Did you consult with Joe when you wrote this contract? or-
Pardon me?
Did you consult with Joe Hanson, our state's attorney?
Actually,
Or not?
the estate lawyer,
Okay.
Michael Shaw,
Okay.
wrote this. And that's where the talking has been, but that's fine, if you can have Joe look at it and give his opinion, that's fine with us.
well, I think just for the liability to the county, it should probably at least get an opinion from the state's attorney, just something on record, rather than ruling on things and finding out later that there was some step that got missed, so. With that, I would consider this public hearing closed unless there is any more speak for or against. And then this public hearing for said legal description, not saying that again, is officially closed. And I think the decision by the board is that we'll consult the state's attorney and get an opinion from him before we make any kind of a ruling. Is that fair with everybody?
Yep.
Any other points to make on that subject? Okay,
Will a letter then be sent on whatever you come up with?
yeah, I would imagine Joe will probably give us some kind of direction to go, and we'll probably have to vote as a board, and then after that, some form of letter or something. I'm sure there's a process with that, so.
Okay, because the representatives for the estate is Leon and then Laura Herbola, which I think are the two top signatures.
Sure.
So it could be sent to either one.
Sure,
I mean,
yeah.
that, I don't have to come back for another meeting.
No, I would say not unless there's some kind of a decision that you disagree with and you wanna petition against that or something, but if not, if it's just a few clarifications and stuff, then I would imagine that will get handled through the state's attorney's office.
Okay, sounds
Okay,
good.
thank you.
Thanks.
Alright, next item on the agenda, will be to appoint an agent of record for the NDIRF and state fire and tornado for 2025 and 2027, through 2027. So I believe the last decision was that we keep the agent of record for 2 years, right, Marlis? Because 1 year's just not really
We do a
enough time.
rotation, and I sent you guys a list in your packet of the agencies and the years, as you know, as we rotate them. And next in line would be the Hazelton Insurance Agency,
Sure.
Scott Baumiller. We basically just need to pass a motion, if you agree to have him as the agent for 25 and 26.
Maybe the rotation is just basically any eligible insurance company in the county, we put them on a rotation and give everybody a fair chance at it.
Yeah, every 2 years we do that. Yes.
Yes. That'll entertain a motion to, appoint a new agent of record for the NDIRF and state tornado fund for the years 2025 to 2027.
Who had it this last year?
Who-
Strasburg Insurance Agency is right now,
Currently,
so the next in line would be Hazelton Insurance.
so that's, they moved to the bottom of the list and I would just rotate up,
So
so.
you need to pass a motion to appoint Hazelton Insurance Agency.
Yeah.
I'll make a motion on that.
Commissioner Materi makes a motion to appoint Hazelton Insurance Agency with Agent Scott Baumiller being the new agent of record for the NDIRF and state tornado, fire and tornado policy.
Yep.
Is there a second to that motion?
I'll second.
Second by Commissioner Everly. Is there any more discussion on the agent of record for the NDIRF and state tornado fund policy for Emmons County? Any more discussion? Not hearing any, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed? Motion approved. Hazelton Insurance Agency will be the new agent of record beginning in 2025. Next item on the agenda will be Brad Huber with the VA quarterly report.
Good morning, gentlemen, ladies. Submitted for you guys is, my quarterly report. If there's any significant, items on this report, it's, a mild increase in the, Persian Gulf and younger veterans, other agency involvement. Other notes at the bottom, tons of training. The required LMS training. The new cyber training, VA, it was free, so I'm not gonna pass up free training. And future events, at the end of this month, we have our biannual VSO training in Bismarck.
So you hearing any feedback as far as people just able to access the services and stuff, I mean, people are finding it seems, I mean,
I am not having any,
I'm not either, I was just curious.
I mean, I asked, I guess my frustration is I would ask and not get feedback, but, as of late, I've had a few comments on, the convenience and timing of the days. I was kinda concerned with only working Monday, Tuesday, and a half day Wednesday, but that seems to be working out pretty good. I haven't had any complaints. I think the positive feedback is I'm willing to work with any veteran, any day, anytime. I just kinda adjust my hours if I need to, but, I think that if there was a positive, knowing that they're willing to go to their location or meet halfway, seems to be getting some positive responses. I've just gotten thank yous here and there. You don't get a lot from veterans sometimes, so.
Well, I haven't gotten any feedback, so in county government, that means approval, so. Aaron's laughing over here, he knows exactly what I'm talking about, say, no news is good news in county government, so I would have to say you're doing a great job, cause I haven't heard anything, so that's been good. I have gotten compliments about you, Brenda, but
And
it's usually pretty quiet, if everything's going good, things are quiet usually.
Yeah, and I try to make, I'm part of the two organizations, so that kinda really makes it convenient.
Sure.
I occasionally try to get to a Lyndon American Legion meeting as well. So if there's any significant items, I'll definitely try to make. I make 2 out of 3 anyway, so
Sure.
that helps a lot.
I don't have anything else, I guess, anything else, anybody have anything for Brad? And say keep up the good work then.
Gentlemen, thank you.
Thank you, Brad.
Thank you much.
Next item on the agenda would be the joint powers agreement for collection and distribution of 911 fees.
Good morning, Commissioners.
Morning.
I've invited representatives from the North Dakota Association of Counties, specifically Aaron Burst, the Director of the Association of Counties, and Jason Horning, who was here previously a few months ago with the Association of Counties. Jason is the next generation 911 Director, management person for that organization. I wanted to bring this back to the table here. Last time that we talked about this, the collection, so basically having the Association of Counties be the central collection point for the 911 fees in Emmons County here. Currently, out of the 53 counties, we are the only county that's not participating in this. And I would encourage the commissioners to look at this and to listen to this, these gentlemen here briefly on this. I think it's a good thing. I would encourage a motion to join this. I've had conversations with Auditor Marlis Holhauser, and again, our conversation was she encourages it also. We recently had an issue with collecting fees from a local telco company, again, discrepancies and so forth. And I'll let these folks kind of explain the program. There is no cost to Emmons County. If we do not want to participate in this later on, we can back out. There's no harm, no foul. But I think we're missing an opportunity not to be part of this. And actually, it's probably costing us money that we're not collecting these fees, being the only county not in this organization. That happened to us last month. Okay, so with that, I will turn it over to these two gentlemen.
Thank you, Sheriff. Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, my name is Aaron Burst. I'm with the Association of Counties. I'm the Executive Director, and then Jason is the Emergency Communications Director at the Association too. I missed the last meeting, so I know you weren't interested in joining the joint powers, but I just want to make a couple of comments. I couldn't make it. I think it's a good thing. How this came about is the history is the Association of Counties runs the 911 program. We have the contract with Lumen Technology, and depending on the jurisdiction, as all of you know, you have $1.50 or $2 on your cell phone bill every month. That then gets distributed by, or gets collected by the vendors. The vendors then send it to the counties, previously sent it to the counties, and then you sent some to us to have that contract with Lumen to provide the service. And then some went to the state tax department to provide the radio network. We have been receiving checks from counties for decades, and the checks were random amounts. As Jason started looking at them, we started saying they don't make sense. Some of them are coming in too small, inconsistent. You would have, whatever, just pick your number, $10,000 coming in 1 month and 1,000 the next. It wasn't that population shifted that much, so there were some problems. So we started looking into it, and we realized if we don't have some central data collection, we're missing revenue from the telcos. They either forget, as Gary mentioned, they forgot to send the check. So we decided we would try to help. We're here to help. We're not here to ask you to do something you don't want to do. If you don't want to do it, I respect that, totally fine. But we noticed we could help all the jurisdictions by looking at all the data, looking where the money is getting spent, whether it's being remitted properly, and we could save a ton of checks. Because one check comes into us from the vendors, we distribute to you, and we distribute to the tax department, so you don't have to worry about multiple checks. A couple of things, because I know how this works, and of course the chairman does too. Let me just clarify, this isn't a moneymaker for the Association of Counties. We're not taking any money to do it. We actually are doing this with our current staff. So technically we're doing it for a loss, but this is not supposed to be a revenue generator for us. We just think it's a good thing to do. If you wanna try it, I would suggest maybe you should try it, and if you don't like what we're doing for you, then you just pull out, and that's fine. That's totally acceptable for me. So I guess Jason's really the detail guy on how this all works, but I'm just trying to assure you that we're here to work for you. It's my honor to be your representative, and I know sometimes on the the political side there's differences of opinions, but my goal at the Association of Counties is, of course, there's the lobby component. By the way, that sounds like my last dental appointment. We have the lobbyist side, and I think a lot of people think of us as just the public policy arm, but really my goal is to make that 5 to 10% of what we do, and the 90 to 95% is provide services that you can use that helps your county, so it makes you more in charge of your finances. I think the auditors statewide are asked to do too much, and I think if we can look for making that a little more efficient for them, that's a good thing. So that's my pitch, but I totally respect where you're coming from. I understand the whole sales tax collection thing, so I get it. If you don't want to do it, no harm, no foul. I just think you should give it a shot. But I turn it over to Jason with any.
Hold the mic up to it tight with this jacket.
And I hope to see you all October 20, 21, and 22. And then we can talk over beer. Instead of coffee.
Morning, Chairman. Chairman Bagram and members of the commission. My name is Jason Horning. I work at the Association of Counties as the Next Generation 911 Program Manager. I want to provide a little bit of background to how the program kind of kicked off, the 911 feed program. We were sitting around a table, and our financial employees were coming to us saying, look, the auditors that are auditing your program, the 911 feed, or the 911 program, the Next Gen program, are asking us for more information. We need more information from the counties to justify the checks that you're receiving, because the checks that were coming in it was just a check, there was not a lot of numbers or anything, it was inconsistent. So we were sitting around the table deciding, well, how do we address this? We could ask more of the companies, we could ask them for more more detail, but that's gonna put more on them to come up with the information and reporting. And it was decided, well, how about we just start a program where we start receiving these funds directly, make sure that the expectations are set, make sure that the numbers are calculated correctly, and all of the line counts are coming to us, so that we can make sure that the amounts were correct and the funds were appropriately sourced. And so we decided on the latter, rather than add more work to the counties and expect more of the auditors to explain the checks they were sending to the next gen program, we just said, let's try it, let's see how this joint powers agreement would work if we just did the collection on their behalf and took that load off them. So that's really the high level history of how the program started. I've got a lot of information I can share, but I thought I'd just sort of pause there and see if there's any questions, and we can pull up details if we need to.
Does everybody have an understanding kind of what we're talking about? Okay, I mean, right now, the current telephone companies send those collections, those fees to Emmons County. Then we have to divide that up and send out multiple checks to where they need to go. This program, everything comes to them. They sort it out. If there's a discrepancy, they research that. They do the background on the discrepancy and make those corrections with the telco companies, and then they disperse those funds out to the counties and where they need to go.
Yep, Mr. Chairman, if I could just add a little bit to that too. This is something that's totally transparent and open, and in fact, we have not only a board of directors, but we have a 911 board of directors. If any of you would ever want any data, come to the meetings, listen in on the meetings, we'll make that available. This isn't just me making the decision of who gets what money. Your 911 fees are dictated by where your citizens live, and so we try to match that up, but this isn't a discretionary thing on my part, or anybody, or Jason's part for that matter. We're just there to make sure the numbers at least make sense, and we can catch it quicker than, if your auditor is worried about the November election, getting people signed up, we have people in the office that do not worry about that, and can look at those data points before it gets too far gone.
How many counties do you serve right now?
52 of 53. You're the only one. And Mr. Chairman, if I may, quite frankly, the vendors are very happy with it too, because they cut one check as opposed to Verizon cutting 53 checks. So I think we've made government more efficient. I know that's always, sometimes we laugh at, but I do think for the vendors it was a win. I think for the counties it's a win, not having to cut multiple checks. And I think it's a better product. So again, but I respect your judgments. I understand if there's philosophical issues too. I just think you should give it a shot and see if you like it or not.
How much time, Marlis, do you spend a month doing this paperwork?
Pardon me?
How much time do you spend per month doing this
Well,
paperwork?
the checks come in randomly, and all I do is, deposit them, and then at the end of the month, I send the money with the state treasury report for their state and then to the association. But the problem that I have with this is, I don't know how many, when these reports come in from these telephone companies, I don't know how many lines they're supposed to be. I mean.
It doesn't show you on the database.
It'll show me, but is it right? I mean, that's what these guys are gonna check into, and then like last month, we noticed that one of the telephone companies never gave us our July. So then, our money for July, and then when I called them, they said, well, I keep forgetting that Emmons County's not in with the Association of Counties, so I forgot to send you guys your money. Well, it's just.
So is that why there's a shortfall sometimes all the time?
So if I may on that point, we found a lot of variations on the vendor side. We found some carriers that were not remitting the appropriate percentage based on what the county had set. We found carriers that were remitting every quarter, carriers that were remitting every year. So you'd have these peaks and valleys rather than a flat sort of constant revenue. The expectation of carriers is if you have more than 10 subscribers in a given jurisdiction, you have to remit monthly. So anywhere where we go, where we provide services to those counties, we make sure that those vendors are sending in their checks every single month. Unless they have less than 10, but it doesn't matter if they have 10 because now they're sending in a single check. So rather than, because it's less efficient to send that one county a check every month for those 10 subscribers, they're gonna send them every quarter. No, they're part of the whole state remittance now, so they're gonna get remitted every single month. And we've found a lot of issues on the vendor side, sending in less money than they should, maybe sending in more money, in some cases, same thing on the county side, sending in less, more, et cetera, and all those things have sort of been cleaned up, and the system is running as effectively as it should.
Because it costs the county every month, because there's shortfall.
Right.
I mean, I suppose you have nothing to do with that though, as far as.
We inform the telcos of what their obligations are. So like T-Mobile's case, where they previously remitted every quarter and kept those funds for 2 months for themselves to gain interest, we expect them now, and we pointed to the statute that says you must remit monthly, and so they're remitting monthly now.
And I know that, to Chairman Miller's question, how much time, my staff, in addition to what the auditor's office does, my staff spends about 3 hours, at least 3 hours a month doing that stuff too. Again, that's something that doesn't have to be done on the local side.
You wouldn't have to do that anymore then?
No, that would be part of what Christie is doing right now, which is about, we just had that conversation downstairs, about 3 hours a month. They would be doing that now, and that allows her then to focus on other things to be done too, so.
Mr. Chairman, if I just piggyback on that. For smaller jurisdictions, we might save you a few hours a month. We get that. But from our perspective at the 30,000 foot, when we're talking saving every county hours a week, a month, collectively, we're saving counties a significant amount of time to have to work on this project, and let them focus on other things. So we think, again, it's an efficient thing to do. And again, if our books are open, you can come up at any time. We actually have a room, if you ever wanna just camp out in Bismarck and sit at the association. I don't know why you would want to, but if you do, we're available. We'll answer any questions, look at any books, anything you need.
And there is, if I can add to that, there is a monthly report that sets out, right?
Yeah, we have a public page that posts the monthly line counts for every county. It was generated primarily for state radio, but it's open, it's transparent. It shows every single county and the line counts that they receive each month. State radio in turn uses that information to establish what the invoice would be to the county for the state radio services. So it's increasing the efficiency on their side too, not that we care as much about that as compared with increasing efficiencies in the counties, but it has created a more effective and efficient billing process for the state radio companies as well. Sorry.
That's $10 to the scholarship fund.
Turn down the volume.
That's only if you swear.
Yeah, oh, okay, all
I
right.
wanted to make one more thing, and then I'll stand for questions, I guess, but the 5%, there's a 5% administrative fee associated with this. So what that means is if your rate is $2, the carriers take 10 cents off the top, just to collect it on the bill. Okay, so previously, and your county probably does this, but most counties would absorb that 5% themselves. They would take the 50 cents that goes to Siren and send the state treasurer a full 50 cents. They take the 10 cents that goes to the association of counties and send them a full 10 cents. But the county had been taking the full brunt of that 5% reduction. So we in this process had the joint powers agreement governing board say, no, that's not fair for the county to have to take the full brunt of that 5% retention that the carriers are taking. We need to split that burden across all of the accounts. So now what we do is we take the weight of those various accounts and we apply that 5% across the board so that everybody's feeling a little bit of that pain of that 5% reduction. So it has brought more money back into the counties just on that alone. It's not a huge amount, but we are looking for ways to make it more efficient and create a system that will bring more money back to the counties than what they currently receive.
Why don't they charge the cell phone users a little more money so the county doesn't have a shortfall every month? Or is that a legislation problem?
There's a maximum amount in the statute that says the county can only go to $1.50. There has been some discussion about raising it to account for some of those shortfalls. We see a lot of pressure on the state radio counties because historically they have been paying a rate that is significantly less than what it costs for the service. But we're, as a state, also one of the highest surcharged states in the country. At $2, it's one of the highest. It's not, I mean, it's probably in the top 25%. So when we go, we have to sort of ask the question, well, why are we already spending so much money on this if other states are able to do it for less? What are we doing wrong? Why are we not able to provide the service more cost effectively?
Why is that?
That's a good question. I don't have the answers for that, but it has something to do with how our 911 systems are set up. There's those that will tell you that we might have too many, and maybe it can be run more effectively if state and local government work together on 911 services. So there are reasons. I think it has to do with just how our state has historically provided 911 services with the number of centers we have and the cost of them. But your $1.50 limit has been there. It's not gone anywhere. So every single year you're spending more and more of the local general fund to backfill it.
Well, that's what I mean, we're kinda, we're getting that, county's gotta pay for that, you know?
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, and this is even getting a little bit ahead of just the joint powers agreement in particular, but with us having the pulse on all of this, we can have a guy like Jason who's actually thinking longer term too, in terms of should that $2 go to $2.50, or should there be state backfill? Or are we running too many PSEPs? Or why do we have a state radio and local government? Maybe there's a better way. So by us being involved, we can ask those questions, which would be hard to do on just a very local micro level. And so longer term, we're thinking bigger picture on how we can address some of those spendings. Because I'm not sure if we're gonna get another 50 cents out of people's cell phone bills. So those are things we're talking about.
Anybody else have any questions for the Association of Counties Representatives?
The only other thing was, do all the other counties have a shortfall on that too?
A lot of the state radio counties are in the same position you are, because that rate for that state radio service has gone up dramatically in the last few years. Whereas a lot of the counties that run their own 911 centers, they've been dealing with, $2 being about 66% of their revenue, the other 33 coming from general fund. They've been dealing with that problem for years. But it's particularly a problem in state radio counties because the state has dramatically ramped up their costs. And frankly, their costs are approaching what the actual cost is, but they're still not even there yet. There's probably more expense to it from a county level that would be necessary to make that account whole. I believe some of the services there, they have highway patrol there, so it's somewhat subsidized by the state. Historically, it's been significantly subsidized at a state level. It's been a benefit for the counties. But now they're trying to get back to what is the cost of the service, what is it actually costing, and frankly, even at the rate you're paying right now, you're still getting a good deal.
I guess just to clarify something, I've probably been the biggest advocate against it, and my reasoning is has nothing to do with the Association of Counties or distrust, or I don't think there's a better financial avenue for us. It all makes sense, and it all sounds more efficient, but I have an issue with creating efficiency sometimes versus just our obligation and our duty to, collect tax dollars and the like. I mean, that's the main point of it. It'd be more efficient for the DOT to manage our roads, and it'd be more efficient for a lot of it, but eventually it's to the point where I dread the super counties.
Yep.
That's my big fear, and that's why all these pathways it's just a concern more than anything. I don't disagree with anything you guys have said.
For sure, Mr. Chairman, I totally respect that, understand where you're at. It'll be over my dead body with the super county. My thought process is if counties wanna stay relevant, we have to be thinking bigger picture, and that sometimes is a pain point, so I recognize that. But my only counter to that is, love to see you on our board of directors or one of our advisory committees, all of you, and being engaged to represent that Emmons County voice too, so.
Are there any other questions or comments? Would anybody care to make a motion in regards to entering a joint powers agreement with the Association of Counties for the distribution of 911 fees?
I'll make a motion.
Commissioner Everly makes a motion to enter in a joint powers agreement with the Association of Counties for the collection and distribution of 911 fees.
I'll second.
Seconded by Commissioner Materi. Is there any more discussion on the joint powers agreement with the Association of Counties for the collection and distribution of 911 fees? Any more discussion? Is there any more discussion? Not hearing any, all those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye. Opposed? Aye. Motion passes, and a joint powers agreement has been approved.
Thank you.
Anything else?
Thank you, Commissioners.
Thank you.
Thank you, we'll see you
We'll
around.
check back in a few months and give you an update.
Sounds good.
Thank you, John.
Thanks for coming, guys.
Thank you.
Yep.
Say that again?
How long's the agreement for? You
You can pull out
gotta do
You
that
can
every
pull out
year?
anytime.
anytime,
Oh, okay,
anytime.
okay.
Given a 1-day trial period. I gotta give Aaron Kratz.
We're in the next 24 hours, all we're gonna do is work on Emmons County business, so.
I've talked to Aaron enough, we could give you.
You do. I appreciate it. Mr.
Yeah,
Chairman.
thanks for coming in.
Thank you all.
Yeah,
See you
thanks.
hopefully in October.
Sounds good. So the next item on the agenda will be Russell Waller with culvert replacement project and road superintendent employment starting date. Morning, Russ.
Russ,
Morning, guys. So I guess to start with, the culvert situation, I'm approximately half, maybe not quite 3/4 done. I noticed probably a week, maybe 2 weeks ago, I contacted Craig and talked a little bit how I was concerned that I was not going to be able to make that October 7th start date. So that's basically why I'm here, just letting you guys know beforehand versus waiting till the last minute. I know there's gonna be some opposition from some of you, from previous things with my stuff causing trouble. And I understand all of it. At the same point in time, we all knew that this job was before, or this culvert project was before this county job came about. So hopefully, I'm here to try to negotiate, a different starting date, I guess, basically is what it would amount to.
What are you looking at?
You know, to give you a concrete answer, that's really tough. It's really weather dependent. Days like yesterday and the previous day like that, I'm not making much progress down there, just to be honest with you. When the waves are coming over the thing, it's pretty hard to accomplish anything. So I have a November 1st date on that project that has to be done. So I guess, long story short, I'm not saying it wouldn't be before, but if possible, I would like to look at that November 1st, just to make it all
But if you get done, you would be able to start before.
right.
weather's been against you.
It has, but it has been against me, but at the same time, it is my responsibility and I accept it, so I'm not trying to make excuses or nothing. I mean, I have to deal with it one way or the other, but as it stands right now, I will not make that October 7th date.
To be honest, I guess I don't have a problem, with it, so. I don't know how the rest of you feel, but I guess I don't have an issue with it. We've been out with for a couple months already, so it's like.
Anybody else have any comments?
Who's in charge out there now as far as getting stuff done?
Well, I would say Gar's kind of been the tip of the spear, him and John, and then, some of the other stuff has been just by committee. I mean, we have some experienced guys out there, they know what to do, and certain things, like Gar called me yesterday about blading, cause there was a red flag warning, I told him no, so. I mean, there's certain things that obviously Gar's spearheading, and then
He reached out to me too.
Right, he just, like, that was fresh off that Hazelton fire, I'm like, there's no reason to go out and start another one, so, I mean, things like that are just kinda getting handled mainly through the foreman, and then John's handling a lot of the phone call paperwork stuff and certain projects like this one, and so, I mean, the guys know what to do. I mean, I'd say the starting date was more so just to get a grasp on things and get something official, whether or not he starts a little bit later or not, I don't, I mean, what are you gonna do, put the job out again? I mean, that seems a little extreme, so,
I think we gotta have some flexibility.
well, there's just, I mean, unless you guys have an alternative option to what to do, I mean, there's really, you know, I'd say for now, with the weather the way it is, the guys know the projects they're doing, I know they're spreading gravel, I know some of them are probably doing some ditch mowing on the federal aids when they can, if they're not starting fires. And there was some culvert work getting done by a couple of the other guys, you know, so there's just, you know, it's probably not getting perfectly done when you have some organization and some chain of command, but I'm sure everything's still moving forward from what I see, so,
You know, overall, I've been getting good reports on the roads,
yeah.
so they have been keeping up with it.
So yeah, unless anybody else has any other input,
Well, the only thing, like I said, there's some places that need gravel that people have been calling, but
right, I still think that could get, I mean, they are hauling gravel, I know they were hauling gravel out kinda in my territory, a few of the roads I've been on and stuff, they've been spot graveling hilltops and stuff, so, and I did call in to John and make a few requests for some gravel, I think one of them was 17th Avenue down kinda between 91st and 94th or something, so I mean, if you get calls, things like that coming in, I would say call Gar or John,
Yeah.
they'll run it through the chain of command wherever they're, I know they're hauling out of the Masco pits there right next to that place, so hopefully it got done already or it's gonna get done soon. Also depends which blade operator's been waiting all summer for gravel, so whoever's getting it now, depending on where your area is, you might have to wait, but, I would say just for the sake of having some official movement on it, what do we just call it, November 1st, the official starting date? It seems to be a clean date, that's that Friday. It's your due date for the project, is that, I think we have to have something on the record at least, not just, well, just come in whenever you're ready.
No, I would say November 1, and if you
Right.
can come in sooner, give us a heads up that you're coming on board.
Okay,
Is that fair to you?
yeah, whatever works, but if, like Aaron just said, if you wanna just say November 1st is.
I think we should just have it be November 1st, and if you get done a week or two early, just square some other things away, that way when you come on, it's just, you're ready to roll. I think just keep it official and just, I mean,
You know.
you're probably not gonna be far off November 1st, not, I mean,
No.
the look on your face says that you don't look like, oh, you're gonna be done in a week, so.
No, it won't be, that's
You
why
might
I'm
even be cutting
here.
it tight to November 1st, especially if the weather, if you got anything other than glorious weather, it's gonna be tough. So you're gonna start
Exactly.
losing daylight every day, so why don't we just stick to something official like, you know? And if that's the case, I'd actually even change that and just say November 4th, cause that's a Monday, or what do you think for payroll stuff, does it make a?
It doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter? I mean, cause if we started November 4th, the next day's gonna be a commissioner meeting. I'd say you're on board then. Friday's a crummy day because they haven't even technically all been working on Fridays. Why don't we start it on a Monday? That's November 4th. Why don't we just, it's clean, it's easy, it's the day before a meeting. You can come in day 2 and you can give an update on what your first day was like. And
Yeah.
you still got that all shut down over there?
I do, yeah.
I've been out there. Have you been out there? That wind was an enemy.
I've actually got the culverts out right now, I'm working on the elevation. I had to dig down below elevation and put some rock and stuff back in to bring it up solid, so I'm kinda, and then I'm fighting groundwater issues and stuff, which is all to be expected, but these windy days when the waves are actually coming over my cofferdam and stuff like that, it's kinda hard to make anything up, you know, so. I'm out there 7 days a week trying to make it all fly, but it's tough.
You got some help?
Little bit, yeah. Nick and my uncle or my cousin Dean have been out there helping me on certain days when I need, you know, so. It'll come together, it'll get done, it's just, like I said, it's a little bit of a setback, which I guess I probably knew at some point. I was just hoping that it was gonna go a little better than it has been, I guess.
unless anybody else has any more comments, I'd say let's just set the date for November 4th for the start. Anybody have any issues? Yeah.
I guess one thing I'd like to add here, according to the handbook, we should have, up-to-date drug test for us here. Just to keep with the rules and all.
Should do a what?
The drug test,
That's been done.
oh, that's been done, okay.
It's in the, I sent everything in, I'm just
Okay.
waiting for it to come back.
And are any background checks and all that stuff all been
It's a
taken care of?
criminal background check. Oh, you said a drug test, well, we can do that too, I guess.
Sure. Yeah, just,
I hate to have something else on your plate to get it done now, so, but, a background check and a, driver's license check has been done.
Okay,
How do you do that? Okay.
okay,
I think background checks get done periodically anyway, don't they?
A background check?
No, drug test.
Drug test, yeah, that's on a random.
They're random.
But if you want me to do a pre-employment one, we can do it.
is that all you have, Russ, or?
Yep, that's it. I just wanted to clarify that date basically of not being able to make that October 7th.
So I think the board is in agreement that November 4th is fine, and your current status on the project is just ongoing, 60% done-ish?
Roughly, yeah. Yeah,
Okay. And November 1st is your hard deadline for the project?
exactly, yes.
That's with the DOT and with everybody, so that,
Yeah,
okay. And you're anticipating to finish on or before?
exactly. If not, it starts costing me money every day, so it's a pretty dire deadline there.
Yeah, rake it up some big rocks the morning they're going to check it out.
Yeah.
I've been there, I know what it's like, if everything went on time and everything went smooth, everybody'd be in the contracting business, so.
You got enough rock there? Geffler boys said they had some rock, if you needed rock there.
Yeah, there is enough rock in the area. Some more stuff got certified or archaeological, whatever you call that there through the thing, so there is some in the area. And there should be enough there to finish the job. And they did contact me, but thanks for,
Well, coming on as road superintendent too, they did contact me, and that was something that Doug and Daryl, they were offering rock in the area or whatever, if that's in the future or something, just keep it in mind that,
okay,
you know, there's a possibility to utilize some rock for riprap or stabilization or whatever, so,
right, okay.
so. And I think they kinda conglomerated it all to like one or two piles, so it's actually semi-convenient if you can get to them piles, all the rocks in
I don't
one
know if
area.
if they tested that or not, but,
Well, that's, you know, you'd have to go through some of the processes, but at least it's on the table.
well, maybe it was tested already, I have no idea.
I don't know.
I guess I didn't ask them about that when they had contacted me. I already had in negotiations with the other landowners and stuff, so I didn't pursue it any further than that.
Okay, well, does anybody else have anything for us?
well, not for us, but I just have a question on drug testing for employees. We'll just say the road department sets this is, who determines when they do get pulled or?
We're on a random, we're with Global Safety Network, with this, we go through the Association of Counties,
Okay,
and they send me every quarter, they do a random. I have to update the employee list, and then they send me who's for the alcohol and for the drug.
that's with the whole company.
We do the road department and sheriff's department only.
Oh, okay,
Does the superintendent have anything to say about it if they think that somebody is possibly?
If the road superintendent suspects something, they can call me and I can just
Can they?
quick
Okay, I didn't
do,
know.
yeah,
okay.
Generally after accidents too.
yeah.
If there's
Do
any
they?
kind of property damage, then generally you get pulled too, so.
Okay.
So if somebody gets in an incident with a truck or something, generally you get pulled in for drug test too, so.
Yeah.
Okay. So if it would be like after hours or something on that more or less, do you go to the hospital to do that, or where does that take place?
At the clinic, there's only one person at the clinic that runs them for us.
So say something happened, if you're pushing snow or something at 10 o'clock at night, or, you know, there would be no place in the area to have that done?
Unless, do you know, Gary, does the hospital do them with, when you
Well,
guys?
that technician that does it, we can do it, they can do that anywhere, all they need is a restroom. You know? And that, cause that sample is sent out,
Right,
they don't actually do the testing in-house.
Right here.
No, it's sent out,
You
it's
just need
out,
someone to take the sample.
right.
Okay.
Marlis will do that.
Yeah, Marlis will do that.
Yeah, they can.
I know-
they can
I
come
know
to
when I
the
worked
courthouse
at-
and do it, if it's after hours, I mean, they can come to the.
When I worked at the Falkirk mine too, I mean, they ran us to Bismarck if there was an incident, you know, if there was an incident at 1 in the morning, they ran you to Sanford. So, I mean, if it's that serious of an incident or something, and the sheriff's probably involved, if there's major property damage, then I suppose we could do something along that line, so I would say, hopefully that don't happen.
Right.
But yeah, I would say that the randomness is like Marla said, gone through kind of outsourced, that's really nobody here does anything to do with that, so.
Right.
In a case like this, if it's after hours, the county would be responsible to pay for that drug test, I'm guessing. But when we go through Association of Counties with the random testing, you know, we just pay so much a year, we don't have to pay for every test. I think that's the difference.
What does that all cover, that drug test? I mean, smoking, any kind of stuff, or
Any
what?
kind of drug, right, that's illegal.
Any illegal drug.
Yeah, the test for everything, yeah.
Any other questions? Not, Russ? I think we're done.
Okay,
Thanks
thanks.
for coming in.
Thank you for taking the time.
Good one.
We'll take the next item on the agenda here then we're a little bit ahead, but that's fine. So, Francis Gabriel, Russell Schumacher, Ken Werlinger, Francis Crum, on clarification of a road project in between sections 2 and 3 in township 129, range 74, extending into section 11 and in between sections 13 and 14. Floor is yours, gentlemen.
Good morning, Commissioners. Thank you for letting me address the Commission today. I'm going to read off a prepared statement here, take a little bit of time here, just to keep things accurate and clear. At the September 3rd, 24 meeting, the culverts installed on 22nd Avenue were discussed, and I'm not sure was specifically on the agenda. The Commissioners were all over the board and nobody knew what you were really talking about. Fulham stated, they should have been blading the roads, not putting culverts in this road. Materi stated to a road to nowhere, and Donnie Everly's got 80 setting down there. Magrum stated, Don, you sort of led the charge, referring to the 50 to 100 people that attended the July 2nd meeting. It appeared to me, and to many others, that Commissioner Holm, Materi, Miller's intent was to broadside Commissioner Everly and Magrum, because it was obvious they did not know the particular project was going to be discussed. It is unfortunate that Commissioner Everly and the landowners affected by this road were not made aware of this prior to the meeting. After receiving numerous phone calls and watching the September 3rd, 24 meeting, I placed an open records request for the road department employees' timesheets for January 1 to September the 6th of 24. That's this stack of papers right here. These are the records that I received, which are available to the commissioners, but they chose not to use them. What you commissioners stated and what these road department records show, unfortunately, do not correlate or match at all. Let's review and fact check Commissioner Gary Holm statements at the September 3rd meeting and compare them to what the road department records actually show. Keep in mind, Commissioner Holm could have requested these records but chose not to. How do I know that? I did an open records request to check if any commissioners requested these. At 1 hour 22 minutes, Commissioner Holmes stated, I have reports and went down there and looked at it. I think a couple of other commissioners looked at it on 22nd Avenue Southeast, going south off of Highway, the first mile. It's on a section road and there were 3 culverts put in there. Then it turns, goes east about a quarter mile, goes south another mile, then there's 6 culverts put in there. There were a total of 9 culverts put in this 2¼ mile road. This was actually done this past April. We'll end quote there. 22nd Avenue Southeast is not a section road. It is a secondary built-up gravel road that is part of county road system which served multiple farms in the area in the past. Since you did not close who the reports were from, nor the other commissioners that went down to look at the road, it appears you were trying to set up and humiliate Commissioner Everly and taxpayers in District 5. So I've got some questions for you, Commissioner Holm. Who did you get the reports from? Can you provide the names of the other commissioners who looked at this road? Can you provide a log of the time and the date you drove down to look at this road?
No, I don't remember the exact day I was down there. And as far as who told me, does it matter? I talked to an employee and he told me that, you know, it was done. I ain't gonna put his name on here. And secondly, I mean, these culverts were put in without us knowing about it. That's all I was questioning.
Okay, Commissioner Magrum, being as it was a public meeting, does he have to disclose the employee or not?
Yeah, I would not know.
Okay, I don't either.
Without
so
the
I'm
state's
not-
attorney here, I'm not gonna pretend to be a lawyer.
I won't
so-
force the issue either. If you're not gonna provide it, and you didn't want the records, you didn't really wanna
I
tell
guess I
the
didn't even think about the records, I just knew the culverts were put in, I went down there and I seen these culverts were just put in. I'm just questioning why they were put in, that's all I was doing.
If
So I
you ask-
have that right, don't I?
Commissioner Holm, right now I have the floor, and if I ask you a question, that's fine. You didn't wanna answer it, so I have the floor. If you actually drove down and looked at this road, you would have found that there were 8 culverts replaced. You would have also found the locations correct. There were 2 culverts placed going south on 22nd. There was 2 going east on 97th, and 4 placed south on 22nd, for a total of 8. Also on July 2nd, 24 meeting, Schuyler told the commissioners that 8 culverts were placed on this 2¼ mile stretch of road. At 1 hour 32 minutes, Holm continued. It took 2 to 3 employees for 2 to 3 weeks at the time when they should have been on their roads. So the question I have for you now, Commissioner Holm, is, since you didn't request the road department paperwork, how did you know it took 2 to 3 employees to do this project? And how do you know it took 2 to 3 weeks to complete the project? And if you don't wanna answer, you don't have to.
No, I was just going by what one, the person that told me about the culverts said they were down there 2 to 3 weeks.
Fair enough.
Do I know for sure? No, I don't know.
That's fair enough. Commissioner Holm, I will explain what the road department records show. These culverts on 22nd and 97th Street were installed not in 2½ weeks, in 2½ days. On March 19th, 4 employees, Dave, Cody, Michael, and Wayne, worked 5 hours, a half a day. No one was grading roads at the time. On April 22nd, 3 employees, Dave, Michael, and Wayne, worked 10 hours or a full day. And on April 23rd, 3 employees, Dave, Michael, and Wayne, worked another 10 hours or a full day, so a total of 2½ days, not 2 to 3 weeks as you claim. These 8, not 9 culverts were installed. So I don't believe you were intentionally misleading the public. You just didn't request the paperwork, you went on an employee.
Yeah, maybe I was wrong by not requesting it.
Anybody common sense would know there's no way it would take 2 to 3 weeks to install these. There's 8 18-inch small diameter pipe culverts. In fact, all the culverts, about 15 that were replaced throughout the county from March to June, were done in a total of 10 days. 1 day in March, 3 days in April, and 6 days in June. Holm continued, I don't remember this ever being brought up to the board, end quote. Commissioner Holm, contrary to the claim of not knowing about these culverts, all 5 commissioners were present at the July 2nd meeting, when at 2 hours 59 minutes, Schuyler specifically stated, this spring, instead of blading the roads, we were putting in 8 culverts on the road down by Francis Gabriel that was promised him 8 years ago. Skylar failed to mention that it only took 2.5 days to install these 8 culverts, so he blamed months of no grading on 2.5 days spent on 22nd Avenue. At 2 hours 21 minutes in the July 2nd meeting, Skylar also told you we've replaced a lot of culverts in this county. Just this spring in southern Emmons County, there were probably 15 culverts that have gotten replaced. End quote. Why didn't commissioners ask the location of the other culverts that were replaced at this time? Why didn't any commissioners ask the timeline of when these other culverts were replaced? Where was the outrage or even the discussion about other culverts that were replaced that were not on 22nd Avenue? Now let's review and fact check Commissioner Dan Materi's statements at the September 3rd meeting and compare them to what the road department records actually showed. Keep in mind, Commissioner Materi also could have requested these records right here, but chose not to. How do I know that? I didn't open records to check if any commissioners checked for paperwork. At 1 hour 24 minutes, Commissioner Materi continued, when was that road built up, Don? Looks awful fresh to me. Why would they build it up? End quote. 22nd Avenue has always been a secondary built-up gravel road as part of a county road system. Only the commissioner with lack of knowledge of grading and maintaining gravel roads would think this is a freshly rolled up road. You're clearly unqualified to inspect these roads on behalf of the county. I spoke with David Crum, who informed me that under Nick Lawler, he and Gar Schmidt rolled the shoulders of that road up lightly, all 2.25 miles back in 18 or 19. He also told me that over the span of his employment in Emmons County, he rolled up all of the roads on his route, and this road was part of his route. He would grade 22nd Avenue about 4 times a year. Since he's been gone from the county for the past 2 years, it has not been graded by anyone, including Lauren Vaughn, who was the operator for that area. It was not until David Crum was rehired on June 12, 24, that grade services resumed in that area. By that time, this road was grassed over and could not be graded, so there's no way this road looks freshly rolled up as claimed by Commissioner Dan Materi. Commissioner Materi, were you trying to mislead the public when you stated the road looks awful fresh? I don't think so. I just don't think you knew what you were looking at. At 1 hour, 28 minutes, Commissioner Materi stated, it was brought to our attention internally what was going on. End quote. Commissioner Materi, who brought this to you internally? Did your internal source bring up all the other culverts throughout the county that were replaced that were not part of 22nd Avenue? Instead of relying on internal sources that you didn't name at the September meeting, why didn't you request records from the road department like these to get it accurate? Why would you rely on internal sources rather than the actual employee timesheets to keep things accurate for the public? If you would have put much time and effort into finding out these facts instead of going on hearsay from internal source, much of this embarrassment could have been avoided. But you clearly weren't looking for facts, were you? At 1 hour 24 minutes, Materi stated, if I recall, based on the atlas, don't you have property down at the end of that 2-mile corridor on the west side? At 1 hour 32 minutes, he continued, the attention was focused on 2 miles to a road to nowhere, and Donnie Early's got an 80 down there in the far south end, west side. How do you get there? You said you go from Hague, you go south, and that's the corridor. You go east of Hague on Highway 11 at 22nd, which none of that made sense, end quote. Clearly, Materi, you were confused as to which road you were referring to. You were trying to mislead the county and make Commissioner Early look bad. There is no access to Commissioner Early's field from this road. If you turn to the west on the south end of 22nd, it's a dead end that goes into a field. If you turn south there, there's a fence. Unless you want to open gates and use pack mules and cross the lake, there's no access to his field. There's only one practical route for Commissioner Everly to get to his field from Highway 11. You turn south on 21 Avenue, 4 miles to 100, you turn east a mile to 22nd, you turn north a mile on the right-of-way, and that's where Commissioner Everly stated in the meeting, I don't use that road to go down there. Commissioner Materi repeatedly stated it's a road to nowhere. 22nd and 97th are county roads. In fact, if you drive the route where these culverts were installed, you will find 911 street address signs for 22nd and 98th. Y'all see it? You put them signs up there, I didn't. So Gabriel's also have them. Years ago, this road serviced several farms in the area, Baumstark, Weniger, Joe Frank, just to name a few. It also leads down to the Schumacher farm on the west side of Zeeland. There are a lot of roads throughout the county that no longer have active farms on them, but they are still part of the county road system. At 1 hour 29 minutes, Terry stated 18 to 24 inch 40-foot culverts. All 8 culverts are 18 inch in diameter. There are no 24 inch culverts installed in this road. It's a shallow road, so the culverts are not hard to put in. I do not believe they were even packed in gravel. Chairman Magrum, since you have an excavating business, I can only assume that you've installed a fair amount of culverts in your time. Did you not see the lack of common sense when these commissioners were saying that it took 2 to 3 weeks to install 8 small diameter culverts? This would have been a good time to either stop the meeting or table the discussion and call for the road department records. It's unfortunate you jumped on their bandwagon. At 1 hour 30 minutes, he stated, "We never voted on an action of this kind," end quote. Commissioner Magrum, did you vote on the other culverts that were installed this year that were not on 22nd Avenue? Does the board normally vote on every culvert replacement project? Should you be the one to determine the culverts to be replaced? At 1 hour 32 minutes, Magrum stated, "It wasn't an important project," end quote. Commissioner Magrum, why don't you ask the Gabriel, Schumachers, runners, others who use this road if it was an important project? And should you guys be the ones to determine what's important? Some of the road supervisor job duties include supervising construction and maintenance of Emmons County roads, managing, organizing subordinate work schedules, plan, overseeing all construction projects, plan and direct gravel, road, highway construction, and culvert replacement. Isn't it the road supervisors, not the commissioners, who determine which projects are important? Aren't road projects left up to the discretion of the road supervisor? If you as the commissioners are going to interfere with the micromanaging decisions of the road supervisor, then why do we need one? The mission could just as well run the road department themselves to save the supervisor's salary. You obviously want to be in control and decide what you need feels to be done. When I was hired as road supervisor in 2020, I enacted a policy that the road department employees were required to record their times and all their jobs performed on a daily basis. At the end of each year, the commissioners were supplied with 2 large binders showing man hours and job performed. At that time, Commissioner Magrum commented, "This is exactly what we're looking for." After I left in 2022, John Ibach, the shop manager, continued with this policy and improved upon it. The taxpayers of Emmons County provided the county with software to continue this procedure. The road department employees have done an exceptional job recording their daily work, as you can see here. Open records show that approximately 15,504 man hours, let me repeat that, 15,504 man hours were logged by all the road department employees from January 1 to September 6 of 24. There were 2.5 days spent on 22nd Avenue and 7.5 days spent on the other culvert locations. Let's review some of the man hours logged by the road department employees. Grading, 4,920. Shop, 3,072. All gravel and rock, 1,521. Holiday vacation, 1,439. Employee training, 611. Signs, 535. Load gravel and rock, 412. Maintenance and service, 370. Tar roads, 270. Move equipment, 200. Drive and inspect roads, 166. Repair equipment, 140. Install culverts other than on 22nd, 105 hours. Remove trees, 8. Install culverts on 22nd. There's a total of 78 man hours with all the guys. Errands and pickups, 71. Boat dock, 66. Push snow, 57. Change and fix tires, 48. 4,920 man hours of grading is 31.7% of the total log time. The 78 man hours or 2.5 days spent installing 8 culverts in 22nd is only 0.5%. Of the 15,504 hours logged man hours. Only running errands, the boat dock, pushing snow, and fixing tires had less hours than culverts on 22nd. The Emmons County Commissioners were trying to tell 50 to 100 people that attended the July 2nd meeting who were angry about the lack of grader services in their area that it was all because of 2.5 days or 78 man hours putting culverts on 22nd. Half of that day was even while it was frozen, so there's technically only 2. And it just happens to be in Commissioner Everly's district. What about the other 15,426 man hours that are left after you take those culverts off, spent on other things? Be realistic. It comes down to management, and you can't blame 8 culverts on 22nd Avenue for all those people coming in here raising hell. Wild fake moral outrage by Commissioner Holm, Materia, Magrum, and Miller about 22nd Avenue. You all had a personal agenda and wanted to get even with Commissioner Everly for calling out the county, so you embellished this culvert project on 22nd Avenue. But in the end, you made yourselves look foolish, carried on like a group of thespians with your loud demeanor, hitting the table with your fists, scolding, scowling, and looks of disgust toward Commissioner Everly at the September 3rd meeting, as you were trying to create a false narrative. It also appears that all of you commissioners wanted to make Commissioner Everly look bad because a large group of the people attended the July 2nd meeting in which they called out the inefficiency and the lack of leadership of the commissioners and the road supervisor for the abandonment of the road system in the southeastern part of the county over the past 2 years. In fact, there was very little snow removal in the southeastern Emmons County over the winter of 22-23 when the county was inundated with snow. There was little to no grade services in that area in 23 and 24. And I know you were probably out there, but I've never seen one of you driving out there myself complaining about that. But put 8 culverts in, and we could build a new road for commissioners to drive down there. Not happy about that. We're part of the road system too. We shouldn't have been 1.5 years without graders. You understand? Let's review grader operators. This will show you why the southern part of the county has suffered from lack of grading service. It had nothing to do with 8 culverts installed on 22nd Avenue in a 2.5 day period. Commissioner Magrum, you have good roads? Pretty good roads in your area?
I'd say they're fine.
Right. Does Al Holm grade your roads? And I'm not knocking him. He does?
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm gonna use him. He's the base high grade hour guy. He's got the most hours. From March 1st to July 1st, when that meeting happened, I'm gonna go up to that meeting. He had 381.5 hours, and by the 6th of September, when we had the blowout last month, he had 701.5. Cody Renner had 370 when the public was in here. He was 11 hours behind Al. He only had 595 by September. He's 106 hours behind Al now. Travis Schaefer, don't know where he grades. He had 352 hours on the July meeting. He's 29 hours behind Al. Today he's got 653. He's 48 behind. R. Schmidt at 343 hours, public meeting. He was 38.5 behind Al. Today he's got 607, or excuse me, September 1st he had 607. He's now 94 hours behind Al. Wayne Nelson, he had 315 when the public was in here. He was 66 hours behind Al. Today he's got 525, or excuse me, September. He's 176 hours now behind Mr. Alan Holt. Dave Ellingson, who does a large part of the west, he only had 256.25 hours when the public was in here. He was 125 hours behind Al Holm. Today, or excuse me, September 1, he had 473.5. He's now 228 hours behind Al Holm. Justin Long, 306 when the public was here. He was 75 hours behind Al. September, he was 432. He's now 268 hours behind Al Holm. David Crum, who came on June 12th, he had 103 when the public was here. He was 278 behind Al. He's now got 400, or September 1, he's got 409.5. He's 292 hours behind Al. But you have to combine his with Lauren Vaughn, who had 319 on July. He was 62.5 at that time behind Al. And he has 320 come September 1, so he's 381. And the problem with Mr. Lauren Vaughn, I don't know how he's showing these hours, the grader wasn't running. You can talk to him, but the grader was not out there. So what it shows you here, number one, the south and the west grade operators have been behind all season. They never got caught up. That's not a bad thing on Al or Commissioner Magrum. It means that Skylar was using these guys for doing other things. And you commissioners weren't watching. You weren't requesting your paperwork. So when that public came in here and was angry at you, they had a reason to be. Records show that Skylar used employees out of the Strasburg shop, Dave, Cody, and Lauren, and the Linton shop, Michael and Wayne, to do culverts, plus they were used for many other jobs. Is it any wonder why on July 2nd, meeting room was filled with residents who were unhappy with their grader services? Skylar abandoned the southern western part of the county. It's obvious that none of you really knew anything about the project on 22nd Avenue. Your lack of knowledge on this matter and many other matters has been showed repeatedly. There's no reason for your incompetence when it comes to giving time. You can have access to employee timesheets and verify projects. It is a shame that not a single commissioner requested paperwork rather than intentionally try to mislead the public with accusations and lies. This is an insult and injustice to taxpayers. None of you commissioners take this job serious. You don't use proper procedure. You would rather grant personal favors and satisfy your personal vendettas than uphold your oath of office. The ambush in the September 3rd meeting was put into motion by Commissioner Miller, which led to a 3-ring circus act featuring Commissioner Holm, Materi, and unfortunately Aaron Magrum joined in. Should have known better, Commissioner Magrum. You're smart.
But I'm gonna stop you for a second here, Francis, because there seems to be a misrepresentation of how I felt in that meeting, so you were right, I didn't know anything about the planned ambush, whatever you wanna call it. My anger, especially directed towards Commissioner Eberly, who I feel like I've had a pretty good relationship with for several years, is that not once during the meeting in July did he even mention or try to even defend some of the stuff. That not everything Skylar was doing was perfect, but it was obvious that Skylar was doing other non-grading projects with other people in times when we probably should have been grading. And whether a culvert gets done on 22nd, if that commissioner in that area thinks it's important, it's at least up for discussion. We decide every meeting on the importance of projects. We do it all the time. Somebody's always getting the short end of the stick no matter what. Somebody north, south, east, west. There's always a road that we should have done and then another one comes up that has bigger issues or whatever.
Okay,
But hold on, Don, cause the issue that I had with it is that Skylar ended up paying with his job essentially. And none of this other information gets brought up. It's all after the fact and it's all ambush information and this guy knows and doesn't bring it forward. And then we're sitting here and we're discussing, we don't vote on individual projects like that. But if that project took anywhere from 2 days to, if you had 2.5 hours or 2.5 days, what about planning scenarios? What about other stuff? Is some of that shop time, loading culverts for that project, other things? I don't know the skill level of every guy that was on that project. Maybe it took him a day or two longer than a skilled guy. I'm not an expert in putting in culverts. I don't do it all the time. So, to refute every bit of that information on the fly in the moment, and then, yeah, did I react, perfectly? No. But I would argue that lack of defense of the road superintendent when projects like that are going on, if we didn't know about it and one commissioner did, he never once even brought it up and said anything.
Right there, I didn't know about it, how would I know about it? Skylar planted that stuff whenever he planted it, I had no idea when he was putting these culverts in. Ask Francis or anybody.
But as I read to you
Could I
here,
ask you, Francis, how did Skylar, and who directed Skylar to put them 8, 9 culverts in?
Well, he does it all over the county, right? Francis just said how many culverts he put in.
I think before you commissioners get too far, let's let the Gabriels make their point, and that'll all come together for you.
Well, I just wanted to clarify that there's culverts that need to get put in all over the county. There's culverts even on roads that probably don't get used that hard, but it's a drainage for other important roads. Those decisions generally are up to the road superintendent. There isn't a decision in this county that gets made by the road superintendent that overrules the commissioners. So that, it doesn't matter. There isn't a appointed official in this courthouse that has the authority to overrule the commissioners. It doesn't matter, it doesn't matter what it is. No, but when you talk about micromanaging, I don't agree with micromanaging, but management in general is the authority of the county commissioners, and the road system of the county is at the discretion of the county commissioners, not the road superintendent, so.
Well, I had read to you the job description that the commissioner give the road supervisor.
Right.
That is what you guys tell him he is in charge of. So you can't argue that he is not over you, but that is what he's in charge of. But that, I'm gonna bring that to a close. Well, what it comes down to is this, you guys are not doing your records checking. This should have all been at the July meeting. And this meeting that happened a month ago should have never happened. Those 13 minutes of wasted just made you guys look bad. You made Emmons County look bad, it wasn't called for. Anyway, I'm gonna turn the time over to the Gabriels right now. Darren, would you like to come up and sit?
Okay, first of all, I don't know if you have record of, Russ Schumacher and I attended a county commissioners meeting in 2015.
We've got
The copy of the minutes here?
them right here.
Oh, you have, okay. So you know the project was approved prior to it taking place. So anyway, my version of why things took place the way they did and when they did, is by the fall of 2014, County Road 22nd Avenue Southeast, south of Highway 11, was becoming very difficult to travel, especially with trucks or farm equipment, due to the lack of maintenance, water running over the road, large rocks protruding out of the roadbed, which if you're not familiar with the area, there's a lot of rock there. And the roads were built with a conveyor system where they convey everything onto the road, no matter what kind of debris it was. Rocks protruding out of the roadbed and very deep ruts. The area is a hunter's paradise, and they are hard on our roads. You probably all witnessed that already, that hunters will go through no matter what. But don't get me wrong, we need hunters. I have lots of friends and relatives that are hunters. They generate a lot of revenue for local businesses. Russ Schumacher and I attended the February 3rd, 2015 meeting to ask the commissioners seated at the time to repair the road by replacing damaged culverts, put a crown on the road, and place gravel. Mike Lawler, road superintendent at the time, said he wants to do the job right, doing all of the above, plus dirt work in the ditch to get the water to drain. At the next meeting, March 3rd, 2015, the repairs were approved. During the summer of 2015, the maintainer operators pulled up the sod shoulders and did many hours of disking. Pulled up the shoulders, and I did many hours of disking, digging out large rocks, and my wife, brother, and I did many hours of rock picking by hand. We also removed all volunteer trees that were growing in the ditch and on the shoulders that is next to our property. The other ones we just trimmed off so we could get by with equipment. After all that was completed, the maintainers came back and put a crown on the road. They did a great job. but many more rock surfaced, so we picked them again by hand. The season then came to an end, and I was told the culverts would be replaced the following year. I was okay with that, I would just be patient. The following year, primary roads needed more attention, and they did not have time to replace the culverts as anticipated. Again, I was okay with that, I would just be patient. The following years got wetter, and the primary roads got worse. This is a secondary road, so we'll wait. I'm okay with that, I will just be patient. By the spring of 2023, came a lot of snow and water. By May, due to busted culverts, water was running over the roads, and they were becoming unpassable. I contacted Commissioner Everly, who contacted Skyler, and they both came and took a look at the problem. Skyler said he would dig the culvert out in a couple of days and drain the water and leave it open for a few more days to allow it to dry out. They then left. We needed to use the road sooner than that for seeding. I didn't like the idea of the road being left open and not passable. The next day, I had a member of the Hague Fire Department bring a water truck with a high pressure nozzle, and after a few hours of work and 3 loads of water, we were able to blast the culvert open, allowing the water to drain out of the ditch. We also discovered the break in the culvert, which was exposed to the top. It was a cement culvert, it was busted, so sharp surfaces exposed to the road. And I contacted Skyler and told him we got the culvert open. He was grateful and said he would replace them later that summer, but the crews were busy with primary roads. I was okay with that, I will be patient. The winter of '24 brought very little snow and all the ditches were dry. Perfect time to install culverts. So I contacted Commissioner Everly, and in February said I'll pick up the culverts myself and install them myself. I'll hire somebody to install them. So Everly contacted Skyler, and Skyler said that won't be necessary, he will get the job done. On March 23rd, I talked to Commissioner Everly, and he, not knowing Skyler's schedule, I ran into him just out at public auction actually, and he asked me if the culverts were installed. I said, I don't know. He asked because he saw a load of culverts drive by his farm, I believe. So I went home and I checked, and one culvert had been installed. I'm assuming it was installed approximately March 22nd. And this is an open winter where there was no snow removal, the ground was partially frozen, so there was no maintaining of gravel roads at that time. So it maybe took, let's give them a half a day for moving and replacing the culvert. They then left. The work was halted due to more cold and snow at that time. So I contacted Skyler on March 25th and let him know if he wanted to save time and money, because he had replaced a culvert that was questionable. I didn't know it was damaged. It was the first culvert off the highway, which we don't have property there. We just drive through there. To let him know that I could save him time and money by replacing just the 4 visibly broken culverts that were exposed to the road top that could damage tires. Or if somebody would hit it with a 4-wheeler motorcycle, it wouldn't be very good. He said he inspected and found 8 culverts that were failing. He did that on his own and wanted to do the job right the first time. He didn't want to have to come back. He wants to take care of everything right away. When the weather got better, I imagine the crews were out doing their routes, which they're supposed to do, because they did not return until April 22nd and did the remaining 7 culverts, I believe in one day, because I saw them move out the next day. I saw them driving away. This would have been on a Monday, unless they worked Sunday, but I don't think so. But I had checked the road that Saturday, and just the 1 culvert had been replaced. When I came after Monday, after they left on Tuesday morning, I checked again, and all the culverts were finished. So in my calculation, that was only 1.5 days. Maybe it was 2.5, like Francis Crum said. But according to what I witnessed, it didn't take very long. And yes, I believe secondary roads should have summertime maintenance. No wintertime maintenance required, no snow removal, just maintain them lightly over the summer. But please don't abandon these secondary roads. We will be patient. Commissioner Everly was accused of doing this work for his own benefit because he farms land in the area. It would be a huge inconvenience for him to travel this route and many more miles of bad section lines. It is connected, just like all of Emmons County is connected through section lines. I have personally not seen him on this route. He would take a route with better roads and less section lines. Just to note, I like helping the county out whenever I can. I think it was in 2019, they came up on 22nd Avenue North of Highway 11 and they pulled the shoulders up. And I just happened to be around at the time, so I talked to the blade operator and said, is that okay if I help you? I'm gonna disc the sod windrows that you're pulling up and I'll pick the rocks. And he said, sure, that's fine. So I did that. Like I said, I don't mind helping. I just like to be helped back, I guess. And we're only half a mile up the highway. So I didn't just do the first half mile up the highway, I did the first 2 miles. Even though it doesn't benefit me to do the next mile and a half, I just figured I'm gonna help the neighbors get the roads off their rocks too. And when we drive, personally, my brother and I, when we haul grain out of our place, we won't haul when it's muddy. We don't like the instructor, we don't like tearing up the roads. We will try to contribute to making the roads better by straddling the tracks, drive on the high part of the road to pack the whole road down, rather than put deep ruts in the road where it collects water. That way you keep a nice crown in the road. So we take that upon ourselves to help the county blade operators. And by the way, Skylar did promise to put a little bit of, his specific words, he was gonna take gravel out of the Hummel pit. That's some kind of, the gravel that's left there is not very good or something, but he would put that on top of where these culverts were replaced because they didn't, you know, the ground settled and packed where these culverts were installed because the ground was partially frozen, there's frozen chunks. So he did promise to do that, and he said he would maintain it twice a year. And Skylar, he took that upon himself to do this job. He didn't, because it was all approved already, and he had seen the water running over the road himself, witnessed it. So I suppose that's why he took it upon himself without even asking anybody, which I didn't know he was supposed to ask. And he got the job completed, and he did the job right. And I thank him for that, and I'll thank you for your time also for listening. I appreciate it. But please don't abandon the secondary roads, the minimum maintenance roads, because in the future, it's gonna cost you more money if somebody all of a sudden requests it. You should fix this road up completely now, and take it from, might look into it's gonna take many more man hours to get it built up properly again so it can be traveled. Thank you for your time.
Well, thanks for coming in, Mr. Gabriel, and I guess just kind of trying to piggyback what I was mentioning off of Francis, my anger in that last meeting, then in the July meeting too, is there weren't enough comments like that though, because the meeting and subsequent meetings after that made it sound like Skylar wasn't doing anything right, and the entire thing was just totally being mismanaged, which again, I'm sure there could have been improvements, and there were things like the hourly grader, things that could have been managed better. But the comments that I'm hearing now is that he basically took a project that needed to get done in his opinion, he took care of it in what seemed to be a timely manner,
Yeah.
and most everybody's kinda happy with it.
Well, it was 9 years late, but
Well, that wasn't Skylar's fault, though, I mean, I'm even looking at the names here, there's a Magrum on there, but it's the wrong Magrum, so that's right. I mean, and it just says repairs, it doesn't say culverts,
It doesn't say culverts.
but the point I'm trying to
Repair the
make,
roads.
right, it does say repairs, and it's not
Which
specific.
culverts that are exposed to the top
But
because they're busted.
My anger
Isn't
and
that part of the repair? Is to replace the culverts that are,
I'm not disputing that, it just says repairs, but I'm not disputing one way or the other, my point is that I felt like Skylar got a raw deal in those meetings, and now it's.
I have nothing against Skylar.
No,
He
but
did right for me.
I feel like it was a great disservice, and then to find out later that some of these projects were getting done, that other things were getting done. Sure, the grading might not have been perfect or to everybody's liking, but there were culverts getting done, guys were getting managed, they were doing other things. That never came to light, and he got absolutely chastised in this room
I was here, I watched it.
Right, and that's, my disappointment comes from the fact that how come there wasn't testimony on some of these things that at least, would have been at least a little more favorable? Whether or not the outcome would have been different is irregardless, but
Yeah, but
some of these other things that were getting done, that I know were getting done, and that the road guys knew were getting done, never got brought up, only the downfalls.
so I asked you not to chastise him for what he did get done, just kinda, that's what you are doing a little bit, by saying he shouldn't have done these culverts.
My anger wasn't for doing those culverts, that's not, my anger came towards Commissioner Everly and the fact that none of these things get mentioned, like, you know what, he was doing a really good job in our area, and he took care of this thing that was 10 years old, and everybody went like, you know, that's not a bad deal either, that's where my anger came from. As far as dictating, if, you know, obviously you and the neighbors think this road should get fixed, and if that's the case, if a road like that gets fixed in some of these areas, as long as people are happy, I'm not gonna sit here and totally scream about it.
Yeah, like I said,
I would have loved to have heard more comments like yours just now, in the times when it was really unfair to Skylar.
Sorry, I'm a little late to get.
No, and that's, I'm just trying to clarify, because that was my issue. Your road specifically, it's a part of dozens of other roads out there that 1 to 5 people think are extremely important, and I have a hard time saying
So
that.
he's been patient, you waited 9 years.
Yeah, I don't mind being patient, I guess, as long as any move is gonna get done. And the timing is right, so, I knew when it was
No, I
right.
appreciate you coming in, though, I did, that's,
Okay, you're
thank
welcome.
you.
Are we finished?
I just wanna make a comment here. You know, commissioners, you were saying that this wasn't said at the July meeting, and it wasn't. They beat the hell out of that man here, and it's all a management thing. But number one, the road department is always short-staffed. Emmons County is what, 1,200 miles of road, I guess the 14th largest county, I think, in North Dakota. It's always understaffed. It has approximately 6 months to do all this road work. That is why it is so important. I'm not blaming Skylar for what happened, because I was in his shoes. And it is a hard job to do. I'm blaming you guys. That's why I came here today. It wasn't picking on Skylar, it's not picking on the road department. It took my wife 2.5 weeks to put them documents together. There's details in there I didn't have time to talk about today. They're that detailed. The road department is providing that much information to you guys. And I'm gonna be honest with you guys, you show up, you're lazy, you're unprepared, and you don't care. When this July meeting was coming up, you should have had John and I about prepping this stuff here, saying these are the grade service hours for these areas. You guys have provided. When I worked for Emmons County, Kelly used her own program to set all this up. John is now using a formula that does a way nicer job. It's all detailed units like this. This should have all been at that July meeting. It should have been laid out for Skylar. Hey, this is everything they've done. The reason the guys in the southern and the western part of the county are behind the grade hours, maybe they're the excavator operators. Maybe they were doing something else. When you got 15,504 hours from January 1 to September 1, there's a lot of things going on. And I attribute the fault to that to you guys. You get paid $1,000 a month, healthcare if you choose it. You gotta do your job, you gotta go through these records. And John will print them all out for you. You can't go on hearsay and what somebody inside the road department says. Anyway, I also thank you guys for letting me come in.
Thanks for coming in, Francis.
You bet, thank you, Commissioner Major.
Francis, I got a question, can I ask? Since you had them records like that, you said there was a difference of what from like Al Holm to like Dave Ellingson, difference in hours on waiting?
Let me pull it up. Do we got time, Commissioner Mager, or are we behind schedule?
No, you got, we got 25 minutes, so I don't want you to take 25 minutes.
Okay, you wanna know the difference between Al Holm and Dave Ellingson, Russ?
Roughly, or Cody records and the difference in hours, because there seems to be a lack of blading in the southern part of the county.
So let's go from March 1 to July 1, when the public came in here.
Al Holm at that time had put 381.5 hours in on his grader. Dave Ellingson only had 256.25 hours.
Okay.
Now, you would think Dave would catch up, right? You would think that Dave would catch up, but he never did. By the time you get to September the 6th, Al Holm had 701.5, and Dave Ellingson actually went backwards. He only had 473.5. So by September the 6th, Dave Ellingson was 228 hours behind Al. Now you would know, Russ, you're a great operator. How many days would 228 hours give you? Almost 2 months?
That's what I'm trying to pencil out here, and my question to you or somebody is, does the hours you have in your open records, do them hours add up to where this person was for 2 months?
It does. Everything that Mr. Dave Ellingson or Mr. Al Holm did is all recorded. Like I said, so like if you wanted to know what they had done, you would go to John. He pulls out these here and everything's recorded. So if he was on excavator, dozer, you name it, it's there. Al Holm would have, all of Al Holm's would be signs. He's got a lot of hours in signs because he's a sign basically guy. So they're doing a great job with this here. You just need somebody to break it down. That's the unfortunate thing I see in Emmons County. You know, I come here and I rip these commissioners, but it's really not fair to them either. I didn't do this here, my wife did. It took her 2.5 weeks to lay out all these numbers, while in the county, really should, and you can't do it. There's no way you're gonna have time now as the road supervisor. You really should have somebody laying these out. It's one thing to print the numbers, but to break them down so you kinda know where you're at on everything and provide that to the commissioners, you're gonna need John or somebody to do it.
Right. So again, what I'm trying to get at is if we have a lack of basically 2 months with 2 to 3 guys, that's kind of what you're saying there roughly with the hours, give or take. Where was the progress, if they weren't waiting, where's the progress to show what they were doing for these 2 months? I mean, what got done in the county this summer to justify this 2 months of absence? That's my question.
Yep, and it's all in the worksheets. I just didn't bring it in because of time limits. They might have been on an excavator, hauling gravel, hauling rock. They could have been on anything. A lot of time was spent up in Braddock. But I couldn't, bore the commissioners with it today because I was just trying to focus the point why the public was so angry this summer. And like Commissioner Magrum said, it wasn't fair to Schuyler, it wasn't really fair to the commissioners, other than the fact they should have prepared themselves.
No, I totally understand that, and I'm just trying to figure out where the lack of employees were for these months that are not accounted for. Basically, we know that Al and a couple other guys were up there blading, and it shows in the northern part of the county, where the southern part, it's in dire need of repair in many areas. And like I'm trying to figure out is where were these guys at if they weren't in their blades? There has to be something, which I know they have a daily time card saying where they were, but there should also be some improvements someplace in the county that the county themselves can see for their lack down there.
So that would have been Schuyler's decision as to who to pull off the maintainer, off the blade, and have him do this other work.
You are correct.
It all comes down to the road superintendent.
It also ties the hands of the superintendent because not every individual in the county has the same qualifications.
Right.
One's a great backhoe operator, you're gonna put him in culverts. The other's a great operator, the other one's a sign guy. And that's what steals from your hours when you do this here.
But you're saying that there was only so many days allocated total for culverts. I can't remember the days you said.
Yeah.
Like 11 days or something you came up with?
I think it was a total of 10, right?
10 days.
Yeah.
That still leaves basically a month and a half of absence that showed, I'm just trying to figure out where the people were.
They're all putting in the same total hours?
The majority of those hours are gonna go to 17th Avenue, cause they ran into the same problem you're running into at 88. They had days where they went up there and they wrecked as much road as they fixed, trying to get material on that thing. And I know Ellingson, for a big part of that was the excavator operator loading the rock out of the fields and the other thing. They had days where they could only load for half a day, then it rained. They got rained out several times halfway through the day, not starting the day or finishing the day, but it's 1 in the afternoon and they would get rained out, and so the rest of the day they would either be up there prepping for the next day or they would come back to the shop. There was, I mean,
You know, these guys, these are all categories that Kelly documented, and this isn't all of them. She took the small, these guys even gotta go out and put a damn boat dock in. When you think about what is required of county employees, tar road, maintenance and service, that's huge. There's just a lot of stuff that they do. We don't give them credit for it. We want roads graded, and it never works that way.
So Francis, you were talking about shorthanded, how many people do you think were shorthanded?
You know, Commissioner Olem, you could easily use 15 full-time guys in Emmons County just to get it back in shape. Cause here's the problem I see. Those culverts that he put in over on 22nd, that's just a microcosm of what's throughout this county. This county is old. If there's 1,200 miles of roads, and I don't know this, I'm pulling this out of thin air, but if there's 4 culverts per mile, or even 3, it's 3,000 to 4,000 culverts that are coming due, they're rusting out, they're bent. Farmers, we drive over them, we kill them, we plug them, our fields wash. That's the workload you guys could have.
So we should basically have maybe 10 to 12 blade operators alone, huh?
Grade operators can only run a wet season.
Yeah.
Cody Renner was out on 19th today, laying it out, he doesn't have a choice. He's got that much powder, it's all blown away, he can't help it. He can't help it, it's not, you're in a tough bind, you're short-staffed. There's no doubt about it, and you're short-staffed a lot. Nobody realizes it. But
I respect what you said, where you straddle the trail. I wish the guys out there with semis, and it's all over, everybody's running semi-tractors.
Yeah.
Slow down.
It's easier.
And save the roads, cause all that dust is binder that's gone and in the ditch and in the fields. It's all gone. And the rock are gonna come to the surface, cause that road's being mined.
Right. But you gotta do it when it's wet, when it's dry, it doesn't,
Yeah.
doesn't make much difference.
There was a time on that road where I had property on the other side, and because there was no culvert, I got permission from Gabriel Brothers to drive onto their property to get to my land. And there was no other way. In fact, in 2019, 50 acres of soybeans were left. They were not combined because there was no reasonable way to get there without hauling 50 bushels at a time. The crop was left until spring, and the combine then left on the property, only half of it was left, so we were able to store it on trucks until we could pass the road. So there is a need.
Just like everywhere else in the county, I guess, all these fields and pastures need access. I hope you can find it in your time not to deny that. And we'll do our part to help out if we can, and we will be patient. Good, thank you.
thanks for coming in.
Thank you, guys.
Alright, anybody from extension here? Nope. Now we can go back to the discussion if you want on, the survey and the info pertaining to it. Got about 15 minutes here, so. So, there is a survey provided by Bold Engineering. And basically, Commissioner Materi, you're stating that there is a process the DOT says does exist for allowing encroachments. Is that kind of the cliff notes of what you were bringing up before?
Yeah, that's what they indicated to me Monday when I went up there at 9:30.
Okay.
I met with the two guys, the head of the DOT, Derek Pfeiffer, who replaced Paul Benny, and Mr. Brandon Beasy.
Okay.
We sat there for an hour, and he said there's no secret within the North Dakota Highway Department that we do permit areas where there's water, there's a creek, there's a lake, we automatically just give them a permit and bring them out of the right of way, but they're not in the clear zone as they talk. And the clear zone is different on a tar road versus a gravel road. These clear zones are evidently derived by the engineering department, old engineering, based on gravel, based on traffic, and based on the design of the road. That's how this clear zone is derived. Out there, it's a 30-foot clear zone from the center of the road out. What did I want to say? He gave an example, Don, when you were in there, he sent it to us as an example. And he said you could go on record and pull that out of your courthouse, wherever on the register of deeds, and see the permits that they submitted with the landowner. They get permission or they get signatures from the board or from the people and the state. They sign upon the agreement. I talked to Brian Bittner this morning on the way up to the meeting. He's the chairman of the board of Burley County. He said, we've got the same thing down. I said, what do you do? We grant permits or variances, we call them permits like Burley, like the state does. We grant a permit on a natural obstruction that is there by nature. We bring a permit up out of the right of way. It's an encroachment, he said, but we grant them a permit to come up and around. So the DOT said to me, Mr. what's his name, Pfeiffer said to me, you know, they said, we can't really tell you guys what to do, but all 53 counties have their own guidelines what to comply with. But he said on a natural incident like this, meaning yours, I would feel this is appropriate and I would go to your board and ask for a permit, because the way it looked back in '96, it was the intent, but they didn't follow up with a written permit and submit it. He indicated to me, Beasy and, what's his name, Pfeiffer, I would get a permit from your board and I would file also that survey of 9/20/24 and put it on record. And if you want to talk to Brian Bittner, he said he would speak virtually to us guys, what they do at Burley County also.
Yeah, well, that's the county, I mean, but at the county, you know, just like we did with Frank L. Whirlinger out there, you're encroaching on the right of way too.
That's what I was just trying to explain to you, Don.
Yeah.
That's what I just trying to explain to you with the North Dakota DOT.
Well, I know what you're saying there, but who resumes liability then? Like I said, that's what I was worried about. You can make up you can draw up a contract where you resume the responsibility.
I asked Bittner about that, he said, don't even go there, Dan.
Well, that's what they told me up there too. You probably don't wanna go there, cause your land's gonna be tied in there and everything else. You know what I mean?
All I knew, and Donnie went, and you, and Miller, and Magrum, and him and I, and everyone in here, when you give an easement, you're giving Wold Engineering, or whoever it is, the right to build a road for public use. You're not giving up your land.
No.
You're giving an easement to build.
That's on any section line. You're not giving up your land there either. That's on the section line. That's an easement for the public to use that land.
And I would just explain to you what the DOT indicated to what Mr. Ravinia stated. They grant permits on issues where nature created these problems. Yeah. I didn't create it, nobody else creates these lakes or these creeks or these draws that are impossible to draw a full fence on, Don.
Well,
I wish I didn't have livestock, Don. I wish it'd be all cropland like the Missouri, like the Red River Valley. But I'm not in that landscape of.
well, nobody is around here, so they gotta compromise and do what they do is right, just like when Frank Willer's fence, he had to move his fence too, cause it was under it was under right of way.
That wasn't done right, Don. There was a variance that was granted, and Mr. Hanson drew up a variance or a permit, but it wasn't signed and filed. You understand that?
Well, I mean, because we didn't agree with it at the time, because it's up.
But the board ruled 3-2, correct? Am I wrong on that? I wasn't on the board.
Yeah, okay, yeah, it was 3-2.
Right, so that was the majority of the board that ruled
Yeah.
in favor of that variance or that permit.
But it never was signed.
Correct.
Right.
But the board does not, the board dominate the rule of right or wrong by a majority vote? I'm just asking.
Well, it should at the time, but I mean, like I
Well,
said,
to be clear, whether that was signed or not, a judge ruled that that variance wasn't legal,
Wasn't
so
proper.
it, you know, that calls the question more than anything,
and I'm just trying to say, to be fair to everybody else, everybody's saying, well, how come this guy gets away with it and that guy doesn't, we gotta, and you're on the board here now, Dan, you should kinda set an example.
I'm aware of this, Don.
I'm not trying to be fault you or anything, I'm just saying that, you know, if something would happen here legally or liability wise, the county would be stuck for all this, and why do we wanna be in that situation?
Why don't you pick the phone up if you would, and call Brian Bittner if you want, and put him on the phone, if you wanna do that.
well, I
They've
think,
dealt with a ton of these in Burley counties.
I think the main question here is this. You know, when you talk about the Whirlinger fence, that 33 feet is, you know, that's state statute.
Yes.
It's actually a part of the federal land survey system, I mean, that was public right away. Once you get outside of 33 feet, I don't know of anything that's specifically state law, cause when you talk about 75 feet and all that, that's probably more of a DOT ruling than actual state law, unless there is something in state law that says 75 feet is the right way for this, cause some of these right of ways are 60 feet and all that, so it's probably a little bit of pick and choose based on topography and design and all that, so that's why comparing the two is probably not fair. The other question would be is, being this is a federal aid road, and the design that it has versus some of these other roads that were built with a mucker and a dozer back in the day, and so they acknowledge the 33 feet unless it was like old highway. This one has a clear zone, which the clear zone is a calculated, like engineered line. It's an imaginary line, but that's the line that has to stay clear because for safety reasons and liability for contractors and engineers, so I think once you're outside of that clear zone, then basically the idea is there's an encroachment on a right of way that's not necessarily against the law, but it's probably against the DOT's guidelines. So if you're going to allow it, there needs to be a particular reason, and by granting a permit, my assumption, I'm not the state's attorney, would be that the county is basically passing that liability onto the landowner. You're basically saying, we're gonna allow this fence, but we want nothing to do with it, and if we ever have to take care of it, it's getting ripped out and you're putting it back at your expense. Otherwise, there's no reason to have a permit, cause as a county, why would you accept the liability? So that's where, if I'm gonna presume the DOT allows it, cause they're like, well, you have to have all these encroachments off the road, and if you don't have the encroachments off the road, you need to have some kind of agreement that states that everybody knows that it's there and somebody's assuming liability. Which then the county grants a permit saying, hey, we'll let you keep your fence here, but if anybody hits it, it's your problem, not ours, and that's why the landowner signs it, and that would be my assumption of why this exists specifically, versus a section line out in the middle of nowhere that only the landowners drive. This is a public highway essentially, so.
Right, so this is even worse than the section one.
Well, it's still the same, it's still the same issue, but yet there's different issues, cause there's different right-of-ways, there's different right-of-way widths, and some of these widths aren't necessarily like state law, it's more of like you said, like a DOT or a federal guideline, which can be amended if you have a particular reason. I'm assuming that's the difference between whether or not this would be legal versus granting just a variance like we tried doing with the Whirlingers.
Okay, so that's,
If the DOT's got precedent of it.
when we tried to grant that, well, they don't have precedent over it, we have precedent over it. They
My
found
point
it.
is if the DOT has examples out there where counties have granted encroachments inside of 75 feet, or inside, as long as it's not impacting the clear zone, I would assume that's like their line, that's their no discussion, it can't be within 30 feet, because that will create,
That's the clear.
that'll
That's
create
what-
a hazard.
But if it's on the right of way, that's the county issue.
Right, and that's where, that's why it said in that email, rare occasions, which obviously are your major landmark issues, if you're going to allow that fence, then you can't just say you're going to allow it, it needs to be documented that you're going to allow it.
Right, just like.
So that's the process.
You permit it, and you're saying that this fence, they got an example back here, and I can go through it, the example that is.
Yeah, he showed me that too.
Okay, so it's there.
I mean,
They grant the state, it's like Mr. Pfeiffer, the head of the
He said
DOT.
that's-
He stated, quote, "It's no secret that the North Dakota highway infrastructure of the state, in their easements, they have encroachments where nature hinders fences to be placed. So they grant them a permit to come up and around and go back down, but they stay out of the clear zone.
Yeah, well,
So they permit them, you see, you can go all over the state, it's nothing to be hidden, it's all over the state.
yeah,
And that's on highway structure.
yeah, well, I mean, he told me, you know, if there was an encroachment and that was verified, then you guys gotta deal with it, you know? And-
I'd like you to speak to Mr. Brian Bittner that deals with it on a daily basis, the chairman of the Burley County deal, what they ended up with just in the last month.
Yeah, well, we can do
And
that.
honestly, picked up the phone and he said, I'll go virtually and speak to the chair.
We can do that.
But he
Well,
doesn't have the time to drive down.
For the sake of today's agenda item, we do have a
But I'm
survey.
just submitting it.
Right, survey submitted, there's information, Commissioner Materi submitted here, his information from the DOT.
Yeah, that, I got that from,
This from old engineering to microvideos.
yeah, he told me that too, but I was gonna have him survey it again, but it would cost $1,500, I said, well, don't.
And he said you backed away from it. But they were over east by Sager Lake.
Yeah.
When I talked to them, they sent these 3 guys over
Yeah,
to do it,
I know,
just so it was done.
when was that?
I don't know the exact date, it was on a Friday.
I mean, this last
Maybe
month?
2 weeks, yeah, just recent was
Well, the
9/20
date, the date
of
here is
24.
9/20, but that's probably not the survey date.
So are
it's
they
probably
charging the
fine.
county?
I would imagine sometime in September there. the
It was
early-
on a Friday, so that was 9/20.
So are they charging the county for that?
No, they just sent the guys over there. I didn't tell
I would
them to
imagine
do it
there's
down.
gonna be a charge to do it, so
But
that's
he
fine.
told me that was cost $1,500. I said, well, let it go. I thought he had something on the record. He said he was gonna check with his other employees, see if they had something on the record.
He sent the 3 guys over, they were at Sanger Lake, I had nothing to do with it.
Oh.
He said you had called in and requested it, and then you called back and didn't
Told him
want
not
it.
to, yeah.
So he said, I just sent them over, so I've got it in hand if it's asked.
Oh.
So I don't have to run these guys deadhead them down to that deal.
But I wonder who's gonna pay for that now, cause I told him, I said, I didn't want the county to pay another $1,500 for a survey. So, whatever.
Okay,
I just think it's, you know, if we gotta be fair to one, we gotta be fair to
Let's
everybody.
move on.
Saying,
well, I think if there's a process that allows encroachments, and that's the argument being made, we should at least look into it, so let's say you'd have to just look into it further and see if there is some kind of a process, and probably consult the state's attorney on it, if there's something he's aware of or anything, and then if there isn't, or if that's considered something that won't work, then I guess that discussion will be had later, so. Next item under old and unfinished business was road matters.
Oh, okay.
Actually, hold off on that, I see Acacia's here, why don't we do extension, and then some of these other things are small things we can do, we can either push them off or get them done and talk it later, so.
You sure?
I didn't see you behind the chair, so.
That's okay. Alright. Reach this to you, Gary, and have you pass them out. Nancy can't be here today, she's at a funeral, so it's just me, but, real quick, just our quarterly narrative that's being passed out, so just a few highlights from the last quarter, and if you have any questions, you can let us know. Obviously, we had our 4-H Achievement Days, so that was a big event in our office, and, the auditorium was under construction, so we did stuff up at the R Club. So a few changes this year, but everything, went smoothly, so that was good. As you already know, we brought on Nancy Dice as our Ag and Natural Resource Agent, so we're incredibly excited about that, to have a full staff now. So if you just look in here, there's just a few, different things. By no means is it everything that we've been doing the last 3 months, but just, some things for you to read. Inside, you'll also find a letter. Marlis did give this to you guys at the September meeting, so it's just a little reminder that we're having our legislative update. So by century code, extension is required to give a update every biennium to the legislators, and also then we invite our county commission, and we're actually inviting advisory councils. So we're not doing it with Burley County like we did last time, just because Burley County has so many districts that they're part of. The suggestion was just to have Emmons do their own. So it'll just be Emmons County, so it'll just be Nancy and myself, and, or just Emmons County related stuff that we'll be doing. And that is on Wednesday, October 23rd. So we do hope that some of you will be able to attend. Information's all on there as well. Next week is National 4-H Week, so we did put a little flyer inside of the, quarterly narrative with information, so if you know of anybody that's looking at joining 4-H and needs some information, it's all there, but I guess I know you guys have a lot to cover, so instead of going through each item on the quarterly narrative, I'll just start with, do you have any questions? Nothing? Okay. Alright, well, I guess I'll leave you with that, but you guys know where we're at, so if you have anything, just reach out, but please consider attending that meeting on the 23rd, so, thank you.
Thanks, Keisha. Okay, now we can go back to road matters discussion, since we have about 15 minutes before we appraise the common property, and there might be somebody coming into that, so.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Well, I guess first I would like to address, 7th Avenue and 88th Street. That is such a rough crossing there. I don't know if anybody else has been down through there. You've been down
Where's that one
from the airport road south and crosses over the Strasburg Road.
That was that intersection.
Right.
Was that the intersection they were just hauling on? That was when the Knife River just
That's the
completed
one close to
hauling on here just like a week ago or two.
No, by the airport, did.
No.
Yeah.
From Madison.
Well, I think, it's down by the intersection, it goes south to Tony.
Right, but they were running on 7th Avenue there, so I don't know, did they go all the way down to 88?
I don't know. I doubt it. Why would they?
I don't know.
I don't know.
Here, is that the one that goes by the elevator?
No,
No,
it goes south of Matterhorns, straight west.
88 is the, or no, 89 is the federal aid road, so 88th is the one that, yeah, that's the, isn't that the Welk Road?
Yep.
Yep.
Well, it is the one then.
Yeah, that's the yeah, that is the one that goes past the elevator to the west.
Yeah.
Goes west of the elevator, then
Yep.
it ties into that farm to market
Mhm.
going up to Terry Olson.
Yep,
Right at that intersection, I was there not too long ago, I didn't know.
7th.
Yeah,
And 7th south.
yeah. Oh, south of there, no, I didn't go on south, I didn't.
That would be west of Strasburg.
Yeah,
so 89,
yeah,
77th and 89th?
Right.
are you talking just by the intersection?
North of Tarnis's.
Yeah, that'd be 89. That's the federal aid road west of Strasburg.
Yep.
Okay, yeah, I haven't been on that one there, I've been on the other one.
Yeah, it's such a rough crossing there. It needs addressed.
Yeah, it's,
Have you been down there?
yeah.
There's probably about a 6-inch drop.
Oh, there is.
Yes. Then the middle, it's piled up with stone.
Well, you think,
Then to bounce onto the next one, you have to jump up another 6 inches or
think
so.
Dave Ellis and Blaine stuff, doesn't he? Usually?
No, I think that one,
That's Ellison's.
on 7th there too though?
I think so.
I think he goes south there also down to the Grossman Road, doesn't he?
Okay.
Doesn't he cover it all
Well,
the
he
way down
merges
to
with
the
Willie
Yeah,
Nelson
they'll go
somewhere in
down.
that area
Yeah,
though, so that's
yeah.
where I'm not sure exactly.
west of
where it is.
Westfield? I think he
You're,
brings it all the way
you come
down
out
to
west of
Campbell County.
Westfield and,
From Westfield west, and then he comes up north.
Who does, Dave?
Ellison,
Brenner might be.
those roads got all changed.
I thought Cody did some of that down there.
He does do some on the south end.
Yeah. But this has to be addressed, because I don't know if there's an accident with such a deep change abruptly like that, if somebody loses control, what's the consequences? Is that the county's responsibility on that, or?
I would imagine.
Yeah, it's on our,
Well, there's a similar one on 3rd Avenue. What's the road that goes past Tommy Wagner's and, it goes past, Dennis Holmes and all that, yep.
Right.
I wanna say that's 91st,
92nd
92nd.
Street.
92nd.
That intersection's kinda got a similar deal where it's got kind of a step up there. That intersection is, one of the roads is getting prioritized over the other when they're grading it and they're not.
Right.
And they don't shape it going the opposite way.
Right.
So they're
Right.
set shaped like this.
Yeah, there's a pretty good drop there on 3rd and, I think that's 92nd there, yeah.
That's 92nd.
Yeah, there's a pretty good,
I was on it, Tom texted me about it.
yeah. 3rd Avenue in general is pretty rugged. I was just on that last week. I took 3rd all the way down from 89th all the way to 100th.
Yeah.
Or, well, not all the way to 100th, there was a, I think you can only go to what, 96, then I gotta go over a mile by Don Larson and then I'm gonna go down, but I was all the way down in that territory and that was,
Yeah.
I mean, it wasn't all bad, but I mean, it's pounded out, guys are hauling, they're harvesting, it's in tough shape, so.
Don Larson had called too, there, there's an intersection there someplace too where they need some gravel on, and must have been a school bus route there. Same with Aaron Newsom down that.
I thought there was some of them roads that had too much gravel on them, that was the problem, I thought with some of them, cause it's ridged up.
Too much, they got
I
a
mean,
ridge on the
there's,
side.
there's some of that where like, there's like a hard packed trail and in the middle, there's 6 inches of rock on top of it, I mean, that's
I was on one.
pretty rugged on some of that, but it's so dry down
It's so
there.
dry, they can't pack it.
It's bad down there, dude, like it's, you guys haven't had a rain down in that area in a while, the southwest part there's really,
Yeah, we haven't,
cause I was just north of Pollock a couple miles there, and
that's bad.
It's dusty.
I mean, yeah, that's the, I mean, you drive, the dust plume is just unreal, so I don't know. I mean, we'll have to get out and light them, obviously, but some of them intersections are gonna have to get, I'd say the proper thing to do is to tell John or Gar, or both of them, and have them pass it on to whoever's on them routes, that they gotta go and get some of them spots touched up. But again, some of them spots weren't getting bladed the last couple days, cause we were trying to avoid fires, so just
Right.
pass it on that
Right.
as soon as it's reasonable.
Gar's aware of it, I had mentioned it to him,
Okay,
on 92nd there,
okay.
but he said, I'm not gonna send blades out after that fire.
Well, no, that, then the last couple days with that red flag warning, I don't wanna be responsible for any more fires,
I don't think they're even rotary mowing, are they, on the federal aid roads because of that right now?
some of that stuff's green in certain areas, I suppose it just depends, you can pick or choose some of it.
They go early in the morning.
Well, that, like this morning was kinda frosty, if they could hit it till noon or something, maybe,
Yeah.
just, yeah.
I went out the other morning, there was at 6:30, there was somebody out mowing the highway.
I would say the big thing is too, is they're just, the wind is the big issue, I think if it's calm, I suppose that's a little bit different, but like them windy days, that's a bad mix, so.
Yes.
But yeah, I'd say,
This, the other topic on that road issue was the grade and step. There's nobody to represent the road crew now, since they do not have a supervisor.
Well, I think Russ would probably do that when he gets on, I would think.
Well, with their budget coming due though, was that true?
I think that was in the budget.
Yeah, I would wait till Russ gets on board to,
Okay.
yeah.
But-
Otherwise, he
well,
won't.
'cause the big thing that we discussed is if we were gonna go, a percentage, that percentage gets applied to all the grades and steps. I don't think anybody was gonna be moving a grade or step, at least unless anybody had a particular reason, so.
He just did give them all the, yeah.
Right, that percentage gets applied to the entire, so even though the road department kinda had their own scale, that percentage will still get applied to the entire scale that they have, and then we're gonna have to work on merging and so.
Right.
I mean, so I'd say for now that there's not really gonna be any changes other than just an overall increase to every grade and step.
Okay.
So wherever they're at, they're just gonna receive the increase that we agree on in the budget,
Is there,
if there's an increase. There's no guarantee.
is there a step for, say a person is doing a very well job at his blade? Can he move up quicker if he's doing a better job or not?
Well, I
Or
think
is everybody
typically that's
treated
kind of
the
been,
same?
that's kind of been up to the discretion of the department head, so I would
Okay.
say that it'd probably be pretty foolish of us to try and change any of that right now.
Well, we don't have any records on them.
Right.
I don't know.
I would say that's, an ongoing discussion, hopefully that the department heads or even the commissioners are gonna create, is if, are we gonna create certain levels or non-CDL versus CDL, I mean, a lot of that's, I mean, we were still working through those processes, I guess,
Okay.
but. Same thing too with, you know, if you're gonna build seniority in, I mean, there's all kinds of different ways you can work with it, the idea was to get the grassroots of it together, and then from there, build it consistently within the entire county too, not just have everyone different, but try and have some consistency. I think Sheriff Sanders is probably the closest thing to having some kind of a, he's kinda got a model as far as, you know, whether or not one's a chief deputy versus something else, or experience wise, so hopefully we can start just to continue to build off of that, so.
Well, that was this blade operator's concern, was with his experience, you didn't know if he got extra credit for that or not, so.
Well, I think to a point, I mean, like I said, it wasn't a finished product, but some of those guys, when we were placing them, even when Skylar was placing them in their steps, he was taking seniority into some of that account, cause some of the guys already were making, some guys were making more than others, now it wasn't a huge discrepancy, but whether that was GAR, or so just over their experience and their amount of raises versus other guys, and so we were trying to place them in positions, and it's probably not perfect, but at least it was a starting point, so yeah, going forward, especially now that we have a new road superintendent evaluating the positions, he can make recommendations
Okay.
going forward too, And that would also be something if we have an HR consultant going forward, if we would have somebody like that, they could assist these department heads in trying to build a consistent program. So I would recommend in the future here that we start looking for somebody to, even if it's, the lady that helped us with hiring the road superintendent, if she would at least assist us temporarily here and there to help try and get
She's
something.
open for discussion.
She said
Right,
she's
so I
open.
mean, in the future, that would be something to really discuss, would be is if we can bring somebody else on that's just got some experience with some of this, maybe some of the things we're doing are wrong, now's a good time to tear it down, cause we're just starting it, or, you know,
Right.
maybe modify it, whatever, and get something going in the right direction, so. I would say the road superintendent would be a big part of that, and then if there is an HR consultant, that person too would be probably more equipped to do it than us.
Right, no, just trying to be fair with everybody.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Is that it?
That's it, thank you.
Okay. Do we wanna move to appraising county property?
I think that's why you're here, right, Christina?
We were gonna go over the delinquencies, is that what we were
Yeah.
gonna do?
That's kinda all the same thing, so yeah, so then you're up, Christina. Do you wanna come sit up at the microphone? We
Does
probably don't
everybody-
want to chat.
Does everybody have a copy
Yes.
of the county parcels? Is there any update to if anybody?
So I don't know, Commissioner Miller, are you familiar what we're doing? I know you're a new commissioner here, you weren't here last fall this time, were you? I don't know.
Well, I was.
You were, okay, I didn't, well, anyway, what's happening is, today's the last day for the 3-year delinquency people to come in and pay their 2021 taxes. After today, they can still come in and pay, they have to pay the 3 years that they're delinquent. So after today, they have to pay the 21, 22, and 23.
In order to
So-
hold on to this property.
So what you're gonna be doing today is, in case they don't come in and pay their taxes, and it gets put up for auction at the November sale, you guys have to determine what you want me to start out at, the minimum bid. So, so when I have my sale, what is the opening bid that you want me to start out at? That's what you guys are here for today. And, normally what you do if it's the first year we get it back, you wanna make sure that you appraise it for at least what the, taxes are owing. So we can recoup those taxes, and you don't want somebody to come in and be able to buy something back that's less than what their taxes are.
Didn't we usually go to true value? Whatever.
Pardon me?
Didn't we always go to true value, what the true value was?
Normally, sometimes you did, but if it was a new property, you would normally do that, try to recoup all the taxes, and you can go with the true and full value too, but if we've had the property for a couple of years now, sometimes you guys lower it just to try to get rid of it and get it back with the tax roll. You can't believe
I
what,
can't believe it's some of them that are on here.
I know.
Yeah, that one in Westfield, where's,
Is that just a vacant lot in Westfield?
Yeah, it's right next to Vanderforst, Nicole and
Yeah, yeah,
Iron Pole.
Okay.
it's Jim Adams, so.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, next to Dustin and Nicole, empty lot on the east side.
Is that the old grandma's Coogan house?
That was.
The old original one, like
Is there a
back
house
before
there?
she moved?
I don't know if it is, if they tore that down or not.
I don't know, it was right there in the neighbor, oh no, not that parcel, that one's emptied and the one next door, I think was I think that was grandma's Coogan.
So this,
these are all 3 years, all of them on here are.
Marlis, if we went true value, can we lower that later? Or do we have to
Yes,
wait?
it used to be, the law used to state what you guys do at the October's meeting, that, price has to stay for a whole year. And the legislators changed that now, you can lower it after the sale.
Oh, I think that'd be a better thing to do then.
What'd you
I
say?
think that'd probably be the better thing to do than not, keep it at the true value.
And then you can lower it if it doesn't sell, you can lower it or whatever. Except for a political subdivision, you can sell it to for whatever you want. A lot of these, I will say, are on the list every year, and they usually do come in. I'm gonna say by the end of the day today, half of these will probably be paid.
Well, that's why most of the time you usually just set the value of the taxes due, not,
No,
At least what the taxes are.
right,
I think you would take the true value, not.
yeah, but that means you'd be forcing someone to come in and pay the true and full value of their property to get it back if you set that price,
They
not.
already own, they'd be paying for it twice.
No, they don't have to pay, they just have to pay the taxes.
Well,
we're-
if it would get sold at the sale, if you would appraise like the first one for 143,700, I'd have to, that would be the minimum bid starting out at the sale.
Yeah,
Right, so even the landowner that wanted to buy it back would have to pay $143,000.
Yeah.
Right, cause that, we're past the point of paying your taxes, that's,
no, he's gonna,
no,
No,
that, once we're at this
no,
point.
the owner doesn't have to,
he could pay the taxes.
Can I?
He
Yeah.
pays the full amount of the taxation due.
yes.
So today, the auditor will sign a tax deed, basically deeding the property to the county, unless they come in and pay their 2021 taxes. The owner of the property has until the sale in November to come in and pay all their taxes, and if they do that, then we do another deed back to them.
Right.
It's only at the sale then, it goes up to whatever you guys set it
They
today.
got the first right of redemption, correct?
Right.
Exactly, but once you get to the point of the sale,
Yeah,
Right,
then even if you own the property, the minimum is whatever you set it at. So if you
That's
set it at 143,000 and sale day comes, they have to pay the full value again to buy it back.
yeah,
Right, but my point is, if you set it at the minimum of 3,500, then you basically would have a bidding process then.
the bid would start.
The opening bid would start at 3,500, not 143,000. Granted, most people that own the property want to continue to own it would be foolish to wait till the sale, but it's happened.
It's happened, yes.
So, the other thing too is, the county only collects taxes owed.
Right.
So if you get 150,000 for a property you only had 3,200 against, the
Right.
remainder goes back to the owner and whatever lien holders they have, right?
Right.
So, which I think is right, but just clarification to that too, you have a $50,000 property you own $2,000 against and the county sells and gets $2,000, you still get what's left over,
Well, here's what
minus lien
happens.
holders, city, county, whoever else has liens against
So
it.
here's what happens, if you guys have set this at 143,000, okay? At the day of the sale, no, I sell it, right?
Mhm.
And, then I have to send, I get to keep the 3,550, or the county gets to keep that,
The
pay the
taxes
taxes.
due.
Yeah,
The rest of it, I have to send the owner a letter saying that we sold this, he can come in and claim that money. If he does not claim it within, I'm gonna say 90 days, but don't quote me on that, then I have to send it up to the unclaimed property.
right,
So we can't keep any,
No.
we used to be able to.
you don't keep anything over what's over for taxes.
And they changed that, legislators changed that a couple of legislative sessions ago.
but if we keep it at the true value, they would be more likely able to collect whatever they're getting, you know, rather than have a bidding process. The people that owned it, we'll collect their taxes, right?
Right?
And then, the people that owned it, if it goes out for bids, they would,
The person that owned it, I have to send them a letter saying, we sold your property at the sale. You have 90 days to come in and claim that money. And if they don't claim it, then you can send up to unclaimed property.
Well, if they can't come up with the taxes due, how are they gonna come up with the true value?
Right.
No.
The only other scenario would be is if you'd set the value of a place at 150,000 and you get no bids or you don't get the opening bid, then it gets no sale, and then after that, we can adjust it to whatever, and whoever can come in and buy it, right? Once the sale has been completed.
Yes,
when is the sale?
third Tuesday at 2 o'clock. So, third
November?
Tuesday, November, so the 19th at 2 o'clock.
Here.
On the steps, right?
Pardon me?
On the steps of the courthouse, how do they still do it? That's how it used to be, wasn't
That's
it?
what, well, we will this year, we got
Yes.
brand new steps, so.
That's how it used to be.
Those were sheriff's
Well,
sales.
unless we change
That,
it,
you know, that's probably a sheriff's
Those
sale,
are
like,
sheriff's sales.
Was
Yeah.
that the sheriff's still?
yeah, like if the bank is foreclosing or whatever, then the sheriff has a sale. This is stealing good property, usually in the commissioner's room.
so unless we change the true and full value, the sale would be the price listed.
Whatever you guys change it. So like that first one, if you don't wanna go 143,700, you just wanna go 50,000, that's what the opening bid would be.
But if we wait, we could still
Yeah, I
lower
don't
it.
even know I don't even know what, some of these should be.
Guess I would just-
Well, some of these are gonna be let go, I can see that.
Some of
And we're
them,
gonna be held accountable, you know? That's what's gonna happen in some of those.
Well, yeah, it'd be nice to
There's
get
no
rid of
doubt.
them, you know, you wanna lower some so you can just get rid of them, yeah.
I'd say it'd be pretty easy to figure out that a couple of these are gonna get paid for before the sale, and then, yeah, like you said, a couple of them are here on purpose.
yeah,
They're gonna be let go.
Yeah.
We're gonna clean them up at our expense.
Well, somebody could come in and buy them. Even after the sale, if somebody wants to come in and give you $1,000 for some of these
I mean,
properties.
we could leave them at a true value, then after the sale, we could still lower the price. If they don't sell for that.
Well, that's what I would, yeah, exactly.
Well, I wouldn't do the true value on a bunch of these, I would do what the taxes are owed.
Yeah,
Why do you wanna try and,
make it hard.
you can't gain a nickel over the true, or over the taxes owed anyway. So like this property that's worth $16,000, who's gonna pay, is that even the value of that lot, or that, but we're owed $2,000, I would say put $2,026 on it. And let people bid on it, or that landowner's probably gonna come in and pay again.
Right.
There's a lot of times with these, a lot of them come in at the 11th hour. I mean, if it's a property worth saving, like some of these properties I know, a couple of them, I about guarantee they want them to go back on taxes, they don't even care, so. Some of these, you could put the taxes due at $100, I don't think they want them anymore. And there's a couple of these that are maybe not quite understanding the process once they realize that they have one last
some
chance
of
to
these
do it.
probably came in and paid this morning.
Well, right, that's what it, some of these are just, they're delinquent to the last minute, but it hasn't, every year I've been commissioner, any one of these properties that surprises you what's on here, usually gets paid, it's just, they come in at the last minute. So.
So should we just go through every parcel singly and you tell me how much you want me to put on it?
Yeah, I mean, it doesn't matter, but, I mean, if not, my opinion would be just appraise them for the taxes that are due.
Okay,
I mean, there's no value in us putting anything higher on it, I don't see any of these that, and I mean, these folks have plenty of opportunity and information, I mean, they've all been notified probably several times that this is what's gonna happen, so. They're either gonna come in and pay the taxes in the next 20-odd, 30 days, or.
So that's where the bidding would start then?
Right.
Yeah.
That the taxes do.
Yep. The county isn't gonna make any money off of
Well, and truth be told, the county doesn't wanna be in the property business, so I would start it out low so people wanna bid on it. And either, I mean, either the landowner's gonna come in and pay it, or these other people are gonna come in and try and buy it, and it's off our. So when does measure 4 take effect if it would pass?
25.
Oh, so it still wouldn't impact these properties then, cause the election will be before this auction, but
Right.
won't matter, so. Wonder if these people know that too. Not that they're trying to play chicken with measure 4.
No, these guys are, I don't know, I shouldn't say anything.
Well, some of these, like this Westfield one, I'm assuming that somebody's just letting go, like they're gonna let it go. And some of these other houses, I don't think anybody's been living in them for quite a few years, so I'm assuming they
The
don't
one
really
down
want it.
there, the second one, is that a dwelling, what is that, that just
The second one on the first page?
Yeah.
I mean, the one in Westfield, that's
Just
that
an
vacant
empty
lot.
piece of ground.
Yeah.
That's an empty lot.
I'd say just the taxable amount.
Right.
You wanna make that in form of a motion?
I think it should, yeah. I'll make the motion that you put it up for sale and the taxes due.
Okay, Commissioner Materi makes the motion to appraise all the county parcels at the value of the taxes due to the county. Is there a second to that motion?
I'd second that one.
Seconded by Commissioner Miller. Is there any more discussion? Christina, do you have any input on that?
No.
That includes specials, right?
The taxes do include the special.
Okay, so this value here doesn't include any specials or any, okay. So the number you're looking at under taxes due is what we would be appraising those values at. We have a motion and a second for that. Is there any more discussion? Not hearing any, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Parcels are appraised and approved. Next item will be a, do you have anything else to add, Christina, since you're here? No?
Nope, that's it.
Okay.
Thank you.
Next is a resolution for entering into an agreement with Lewis and Clark Regional Development Council to apply for regional livestock planning grant. I believe that's what Brent was in here last month for, kind of explaining the,
I gave you guys all a copy of the resolution in your packet.
So the resolution reads, whereas the County of Emmons, on behalf of its county commission, desires to enter into agreement with Lewis and Clark Regional Development Council to apply for the regional livestock planning grant, which the county is eligible. The agreement further provides the county with identification of suitable locations for rural economic development, including animal feeding operations, agricultural processing and storage facilities, and other agricultural related development. Now therefore be it resolved by the Board of Emmons County, North Dakota as follows. Following completion of the site analysis process, the county will review county and township zoning and land use regulations. The county may update any zoning or land use regulations based on recommendations of the site analysis process. Additionally, county will provide information to townships of said county that they may review and update zoning or land use regulations as they see fit. So I believe basically we were just approving a resolution saying that we're gonna participate in this program, which would open up funding opportunities for other
Developments.
egg-based operations and processing facilities, storage facilities. Anybody have any comments about the resolution? It's pretty simple. Entertain the motion to approve, table, or deny the resolution for
I'll make a motion.
Lewis and Clark Regional Development. Commissioner Everly makes a motion to approve the resolution for entering into an agreement. Seconded by Commissioner Holm. Is there any more discussion on the Lewis and Clark Regional Development resolution? Not hearing any, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Resolution approved.